Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Turned Himself into a Gorilla? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Let's get this party started. This is the story of how Izuku Midoriya became a hero. Now, usually we just get to the parts that actually matter, but I'm legally required to include the beginning of canon, so blah blah blah. Kill yourself, Izuku, blah blah blah. You can't be a hero, Izuku, blah blah blah. Real move trying to save that kid while we did nothing, you a-hole. So, yeah, suffice it to say, Izuku was rather upset that day. And when Izuku is upset, he finds somewhere to cry, with somewhere that day being Dagobah Beach, an unholy trash heap where no one would look to find him. As he wept, he kicked a pebble, which hit a can, which dislodged a board, which hit a rope, which cut the flimsy thing, which sent a trash bag falling onto another board, which launched a thick book right at Izuku's face. "Hey, kid, are you all right?" asked a voice belonging to a muscular, blonde man with sunken, blue eyes. It was All Might. "Yeah, I'm fine," said Izuku as he picked himself off the ground. "This book just hit me in the face." "Well, it's important that I make sure you're okay," said All Might, "and I'm sorry." "Huh. I was wrong," said All Might. "You, my boy, can in fact be a hero. You have that drive, that spark. It reminds me of myself at your age and are even listening." "Yep," said Izuku as he looked inside the book, "just flipping through here." He then landed on a 2-page spread depicting the artwork of some slouchy, humanoid thing. "Huh, take a look at this," Izuku said as he handed the book to All Might. "Looks like a spell," said All Might, "one that could give you the power of this spirit." "How do you figure?" asked Izuku. "It's written here in Sanskrit," explained All Might. "Of course, Majestic once said magic has its risks." "I'd say it's worth it," said Izuku. "You sure?" asked All Might. "All my life," Izuku said, "people have called me useless. I try to do the right thing and get told off for it, while the person who caused half the explosions gets praised. No way, I'm not going to try this." All Might noted the determination in Izuku's eyes and sighed to himself. "Let's get the ingredients before my time limit runs out again," he said with a smile. Soon enough, they had gathered everything the spell needed. "I hope this works," said All Might as Izuku threw a block of pewter, an old banana peel, and a stone with a sigil hastily carved on it into a pot of cold seawater. "Now for the magic words," said Izuku. "Gods, I hope this works." "Don't worry," said All Might. "If it doesn't, I'll make certain you do become a hero." "Thank you," said Izuku as he took a deep breath. "Sorna Dormammu, Velishta Todo, Wingorium Leviosa, Monkey Squash Banana, Scepter Dalliance, Magi Topanga." As he said these words, the storm clouds above formed a sort of ape-like shape before surging into Izuku. When he awoke, he was lying in a hospital bed with his mother, Inko, All Might, and a short, old nurse, who was in the middle of whacking All Might on the head with her cane. "I cannot believe you let a 15-year-old boy practice black magic," the old woman exclaimed. "He gave me the puppy dog eyes," All Might protested. "I couldn't say no." "Mom, I'm sorry," sighed Izuku. "It's all right, sweetie," said Inko. "All Might told me what happened before all that. He said he's helping you get ready for the UA entrance exam, so that's nice of him." "It is," smiled Izuku. "I'll leave you alone for a bit," said Inko with a dark look in her eyes. "I need to talk with All Might about this." As she left, Izuku felt bad for All Might. "Phew, Mom is scary," said a voice. "Who said that?" asked Izuku. "I did," said the voice. "Who are you?" asked Izuku. "Me," said the voice. "Not helping," said Izuku. "Well, put it this way," said the voice. "There's this voice that only you can hear at the moment. Now, what do you think that means?" "The spell worked," said Izuku. "Yep," said the voice. "1 minute, I'm resting in the spirit realm, the next, I'm in a body that would get torn apart by even a partial transformation. Seriously, you need to add some muscle to those bones of yours if you plan on getting into UA." "How do you know that?" asked Izuku. "2 minds, 1 body," said the voice. "Since I now live in your head rent-free, I took the liberty of looking into your memories and learning the language to speak like this to you. Didn't mean to intrude, but I did. So, when you say transformation, does that mean? Asked Izuku. Indeed, your body will turn into a larger version of what I looked like when I was alive, said the voice. Some changes, of course. Our fur will match your hair, for instance. But we can't transform in this state. Which means we need to make your body as strong as your mind. How do you suggest we do that? Asked Izuku. I'm sure that all right fellow will think of something, said the voice. He did. For the next 10 months, Izuku was cleaning away the garbage on Dagoba Beach, hauling such things as washing machines and a steel beam. Seriously, said the voice 5 months in, who tosses a steel beam on the beach? Wordos, that's who, said Izuku. Speaking of which, you still need a name. Who are you talking to? Asked All Might as he looked down from a pile of scrap. Me, said Izuku, only it wasn't Izuku. His face had changed. Now, he had leathery skin, a protruding bottom fong, and glowing green eyes. Good to see something toward the transformation, said All Might. Does that mean you too will fully transform? No, but Host Body is right about another thing, said the being. I do need a name. Host Body? Asked Izuku as his face returned to normal. Yeah, said the voice comfortably in his head. We are, technically, a symbiotic pair. I'm just riding along with your body as my host. I think when our face transforms, we look a little like a monkey, said Izuku. In fact, that's your name now, Monkey. Better that than no name at all, said Monkey. Just wait until we fully transform. Later on, Izuku decided to test himself. He lifted not 1, but 2 cinder blocks with his bare hands. He ran the entire length of Mustafa front and back without breaking a sweat. Adding to this, he taught himself parkour and was soon leaping off of walls and swinging off monkey bars. He was soon completing as much as 30 push-ups a day, 30 sit-ups a week, and running at least 4 miles every hour. Good work, Host Body, said Monkey in his head. Keep it going. There were days, of course, that were worse than others, mainly thanks to Katsuki Bakugo, the arrogant explosion user. I mean this time, you worthless Deku, he snarled. You better not dream of wrecking my origin story when I go to you. Izuku wanted to respond, but Monkey was saying, don't listen to the jackass dog over there, Izuku. You're already twice the hero he is. You think so? Izuku asked. I know so, said Monkey. Besides, at least he and us aren't near water. That would be an issue. Izuku then began his jog, leaving Bakugo fuming. He just shrugged you off, said another student with bat wings. Shut it extra, Bakugo shrieked. Izuku raced back to his house to look up another parkour tutorial. However, Monkey had other ideas. You're back sooner today, said Inko. Yes indeed, said Monkey. Host Body is calling me Monkey now, by the way. Anyway, I just want to see this UA Academy for myself. Do you doubt your brother's chosen school? Inko asked. Not hardly, said Monkey. I just know that anyone claiming to be the best has something to hide. Let's see what happens when I put in UA and lawsuits. Huh, I did expect this many ads. After a bit of scrolling, Inko and Monkey found an article from earlier that year detailing a lawsuit between a smaller firm and UA over the expulsion of an entire classroom. Looks like one of their teachers doesn't like the faunus a whole lot, Monkey muttered. Luckily for them, they reached a settlement, said Inko. In addition to paying their legal fees, UA also had to remove the black marks from their record and help them pursue their education elsewhere. Normally, I'd say that would be the end of it, but old habits die hard. I have a feeling the teacher who did this might do it again, and when that happens, I want the both of you to tell me. Yes, Mom, said Monkey. The UA article wasn't the only instance of anti-faunus racism Izuku and Monkey witnessed. As they moved 2 tons of scrap metal, Izuku and All Might found a sign that said, Death to the faunus disease. Disgusting, snarled All Might. I can't stand the idea of bigotry, be it against the quirkless or the faunus. You might want to look into that teacher who expelled a whole class, said Izuku. Monkey wanted to look into the school before the entrance exam. Oh yes, said All Might. I'll have a word with Principal Nizu when I have the chance. In the meantime, I'll dispose of this sign myself. Let me know if you see anything else like it. Yes, sir, said Izuku as he dragged off more scrap. After 5 more months of cleaning, fight training, and a steady diet and exercise, Izuku was ready for the UA entrance exam. As Izuku walked up the steps, he bumped into someone he dreaded. Watch where you're going, shitty Deku, snarled Bakugo. I'm gonna ace this shitty entrance exam. Oh great, Monkey said in Izuku's head, this a-hole. You know there's a good chance he'll make it in, said Izuku. Doesn't mean I have to like it, said Monkey. Just then, as he was walking up the stairs, Izuku tripped. Before he hit the ground, he felt the weight leave his body. Izuku looked behind him to see a girl with brown hair and a permanent blush on her cheeks connecting her fingers, which glowed pink with gravitational energy. Are you okay? She asked. I noticed you tripped and, oh crap, I'm gonna be late. We'll talk later, I'll see you inside. Good luck on the exam. She then ran off. Izuku was stunned. Hey, a girl talked to you, said Monkey. Maybe this won't be so bad after all. Soon enough, Izuku found himself on the bus on the way to the proctor's site for the UA entrance exam. Stop shaking, you're gonna do great, said Monkey. Easy for you to say, thought Izuku. I'm only using part of your strength to keep my limbs attached. That's without getting into Kaken being here. I really wish you'd stop calling him that, said Monkey. You remember how many times he tried blowing the two of us up? That's why I'm worried, Izuku thought. Listen, said Monkey, you aced the written exam, right? That means you must be smart. You had All Might as a personal trainer, which means you are strong. Finally, you want to save as many people as All Might, which means you must be kind. If UA doesn't see the value in that, to hell with it, and its mom too. That last part wasn't necessary, Izuku thought. Just remember, said Monkey, in order to achieve the very best, one must be like the jungles I lived among in life. Full of life and energy. Be the jungle, Izuku, be the jungle. The bus arrived at the proctor site, where a man with a distinctive, red mohawk was waiting. Hey, check it out, it's the Crimson Cockatoo, said Monkey. No, that's Present Mike, Izuku thought. He's got the power to project his voice to an insane level. How insane we talking? Asked Monkey. At his highest decibel, Present Mike could level a building, literally, from the word go. Any higher, he could shatter someone's head or make an entire skeleton explode or... But Izuku was interrupted by a tall kid with glasses. Cease your muttering, the tall kid said while chopping his arm robotically. You're disrupting the class. Sorry, said Izuku meekly. JRK, said Monkey. I don't know about you, host body, but I sure do hope something bad happens to that guy. Izuku grimaced, but mostly focused on Present Mick's lecture on what to expect during the entrance exam. In summary, each of the examinees was to destroy 3 different types of robots, except the 100 feet tall zero-pointer, which carried a penalty for any student that chose to attack it. Now, said Present Mike, let the entrance exam begin. The doors opened as everyone waited. What are you waiting for? Asked Present Mike. There's no countdown in real life. With that, everyone ran into the fake city the school was using for the event. Be the jungle, huffed Izuku as he ran in. Don't repeat it, just be it, said Monkey. Besides, nothing can go wrong here. Die, yelled Bakugo as he used his explosions to blow up 3 robots at once, sending shrapnel flying. Look out, cried Izuku as he threw a girl with pink skin out of the way. Rocky up there is gonna fall, said Monkey as a kid with rocky skin fell from a rooftop. Izuku leaped forward at high speed and caught him. Sheet, he thought. That's being the jungle, said Monkey. Get that robot there. Izuku whirled around and knocked a robot's head off. Look what you can do with a fraction of my power, said Monkey. Keep going. Show them what you're made of. Just then, the ground rumbled as the massive zero-pointer approached, smashing buildings. In its wake, time to go, said Monkey. Izuku was about to flee when he saw the girl from earlier pinned under rubble as the zero-pointer was moving towards her. Cue song, Hero by All Insane Kids. The tall kid with glasses had ran past her. I need all of it, said Izuku. Not a good idea, said Monkey. Don't care, said Izuku as he ran forward. We need to save her. Okay, on my signal, use all of our strength to jump, said Monkey as they raced closer. Now. At that moment, Izuku leaped into the air, leaving behind a small crater that blew dust into the air. He felt power surging through his entire body as he neared the robot's head, and he recited the words All Might would use for this moment. Smash! He felt his arms grow longer and thicker as he punched the zero-pointer's metal head clean off. Good news, the robots beat. Bad news, gravity exists, said Monkey as Izuku began to fall. He hit his arm against the zero-pointer's chest, shattering it at the shoulder as he hurtled to the ground. But then he found himself surrounded by pink energy as the girl put her fingers together. Nice save, said Izuku before he fainted from shock. When Izuku awoke, he found himself inside the nurse's office, where Recovery Girl, the old nurse who had helped him out 10 months earlier, was waiting to whack him on the head with her cane. "OW," said Izuku, more annoyed than hurt. "Indeed," said Recovery Girl, "you're lucky you had enough stamina for my quirk to work while you were asleep. Tashinori is in for it now, giving it to a boy whose body couldn't handle it." "Who's Tashinori?" asked Izuku. "You mean All Might gave you his power, but didn't tell you his name?" asked Recovery Girl. "He didn't give me anything other than some good advice," said Izuku. "Aside from the spell, it was all me out there today." Recovery Girl said nothing, but her face went red with anger as she left the office. Moments later, they heard All Might yelp in pain. I'm sure he's fine," said Monkey. Sometime afterward, Principal Nizu, a small, rodent-like thing wearing a black vest over a white shirt, had gathered all of the teachers under his employ to review the entrance exam. Alongside All Might, Present Mike, and Recovery Girl, there was Power Loader, a man wearing a construction claw on his head, Vlad King, a man with gauntlets that had tubes running into a device on his back, Hound Dog, a dog faunus with brown fur, Midnight, a beautiful woman wearing high heels and a black variant of her usual costume, and finally, Eraserhead, a man with long black hair. "Seems like we're already hard at work," said Nizu cheerfully. "How's the selection process going?" "I still want to refuse entry to that Midoriya boy," said Eraserhead. "He broke himself just to save one person. It would be illogical to accept him." "But it was perfectly logical to expel an entire class," Midnight said. "How'd that go for us again?" "Enough, Kiyama," said Nizu. Eraserhead chuckled but then froze when Nizu turned his attention on him. "While Kiyama is out of line, she does have a point, Aizawa," said Nizu sternly. "I don't care for your logic anymore, especially considering your ways almost got a student killed. As such, while you're still allowed your quirk assessment test, any expulsions are to be handled by me and me alone. Am I clear?" "Crystal," muttered Eraserhead. He ignored Midnight's glare as Nizu climbed back into his seat. "If you're done selecting students for your homeroom classes, you may go," said Nizu. "All Might and I would like to have a word alone." As soon as everyone left, Nizu turned to All Might. "You certain the spell worked?" he asked. "Indeed," said All Might. "We'll need a new candidate for the transfer now." "Maybe," said Nizu as he pulled up the footage of Izuku's test on his laptop. "But if the spell works like how the book says it does, we might not need to transfer one for all." "We can't be too careful," said All Might. "The minute I retire, they'll be on the boy like vultures at the feast. Knives out, beaks bloody." Nizu froze on the image of an ape-like silhouette. "I almost pity them," laughed Nizu. "That's enough monkey business." Izuku fixed his tie as he walked up the stairs to UA. He wiped tears at the fact that he was here, at the school of his dreams. "Quit your weeping, it's a school," said Monkey. "You can cry afterwards like every other student here will." "I made it into you," said Izuku. "You'd cry tears of joy too." He then passed a ghoulish fellow wearing a black helmet and cape. "Oh my goodness, it's Ectoplasm," Izuku exclaimed. "That's my name, don't wear it out," said Ectoplasm as headed into his math class. "Yeah, that's cool," said Monkey. "Where's the homeroom?" "Right here," said Izuku as he walked into Class 1A, his homeroom for this and the next 2 years. "Oh good, Bakugo's here," Monkey snarled. Indeed, Bakugo was sitting in his seat with his feet on the desk, something the tall kid with glasses took umbrage with. "Take your feet off the desk," he demanded, chopping his arm robotically, have you no respect for the previous students of this academy? No, I don't, extra, said Bakugo loudly. Who the hell are you, anyway? We seem to have gotten off on the wrong foot, said the tall kid. I'm Tenya Ida from Sumai Academy. Sumai? Did they shove that stick up your butt, or were you just born with it? Bakugo asked cruelly. Ida realized the conversation was going nowhere and decided to talk to Izuku. Hello, I'm Tenya Ida, he said. Yes, I heard, said Izuku as he shook his hand. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Midoriya? Oh yes, said Ida. I must apologize for my rude remarks. Clearly, you saw the hidden purpose to the entrance exam that I didn't. Oh, I saw the hidden purpose all right, snarled Monkey. The hidden purpose of kicking your butt inside out. Odd apology accepted, said Izuku. Just then, the girl he had saved at the entrance exam. Oh, thank goodness, she said. I was worried they wouldn't accept you. I even tried giving my points to you so you could get in. I saw that, smiled Izuku. Thank the gods for rescue points. I'll say, said the girl, my name is Ochako Uraraka. Began Izuku, but he was interrupted. If you're here to socialize, get out, said a tired man in a yellow sleeping bag. You're here to be heroes. The tired man got out of his sleeping bag and made his way to the podium. I am Aizawa, your homeroom teacher, he said. Put on your gym uniforms. We're heading for Field Gamma. But we'll miss orientation, said Ochako. Won't need those frivolous niceties, said Aizawa. At that moment, Monkey took control. So, we won't need guidance counselors, mental health professionals, or resources for whenever we get injured, he asked. Aizawa's eyes flashed red, but nothing happened. It'll be in the syllabus, he grumbled. Now go get changed. A while later, Izuku walked onto Field Gamma, wearing the blue and white UA tracksuit. You just had to get on his bad side, Izuku thought. You saw his eyes, right? Asked Monkey. It's got to be Eraserhead. Just then, Izuku bumped into the pink girl. Sorry, he said. No worries, said the pink faunus. It happens to everyone. I'm Mina Ishido, but just call me Mina. Izuku Midoriya, said Izuku. Hey guys, said Ochako as she walked over. Oh, she has it bad for you, said Monkey. Quiet, whispered Izuku. What was that? Asked Mina. Oh, my other half is acting up, said Izuku. I have that problem a lot, said a faunus with a crow's head. I'm Fumikage Tokoyami, and this is my dark will made manifest. Suddenly, a black, shadowy thing emerged from his back. Oh, hush you, the thing said. Name's Dark Shadow, and Fumi over here isn't all that dark. As a matter of fact, his favorite band of all time is. Okay, back in the body you go, said Tokoyami as he shoved Dark Shadow back into his chest. Honestly, scoffed a tall boy with red and white hair, a steaming arm, and a red scar over one of his icy blue eyes. What's your name, fellow dark traveler? Asked Tokoyami. Shoto Todoroki, the boy said. I'm not here to make friends. Rude, said a floating uniform. Indeed, Toru, said a tall girl with a spiky ponytail. Most uncouth. That's Momo Yaoyorozu, explained Ochako. The girl next to her is Toru Hagakure. Yaoyorozu looks kind of familiar, said Izuku. I just can't place where I've seen her before. Before Ochako could respond, a boy with sticky purple ball for hair walked over. Hey ladies, name's Mineta, he said. This is the life, to be surrounded by hot honey bunnies. Okay, I change my mind, said Monkey. I really hope something bad happens to him. You and me both, thought Izuku. All right, line up, said Aizawa. We're wasting too much time. We'll be seeing how well you can control your quirks with these assessment tests. Bakugo, you were first in the entrance exam. How far can you throw a softball? 20 feet, said Bakugo confidently. Try throwing with your quirk, said Aizawa as he handed him a softball. Die! Bakugo screamed as he used his explosions to launch the ball into the air like a cannon. Die? The other students asked. A hologram displayed the distance the ball went. It had gone 107 feet. Each of you will be doing these fitness tests using your quirks, Aizawa explained. We get to use our quirks? Mina asked. This is going to be so much fun. Fun? You think this is fun? Aizawa asked with a cruel smile. As he went on a blistering rant, Monkey felt the need to comment on the situation. Yak yak yak, he said. Geez, does this guy ever shut his gob or what? Anyway, you turned the thing on, right? Of course, I'm not stupid, Izuku thought silently. Good, said Monkey as Aizawa told everyone that the student with the lowest score was getting expelled. Okay, looks like we're up. If he stares, take a dive and remember, this is all part of All Might's plan. Alright, Midoriya, throw the ball using your quirk, said Aizawa. As Izuku took the ball, he gave his surroundings a look, noticing that Aizawa's hair was floating and his eyes were glowing red. He's using his power, said Monkey. Take a dive and feign frustration. Izuku tossed the ball, which landed 2 feet away. What the? Izuku asked. What happened to my quirk? I erased it, said Aizawa. Eraserhead confirmed, said Monkey. You were too reckless at the entrance exam. Were it up to me, you wouldn't be here. That's not fair, said Izuku, only to be pulled forward by Aizawa's capture cloth. Life is unfair, the teacher sneered. It is the job of heroes to combat the unfairness of life. So it would be unfair and illogical to allow you to drag down the other students with you. You broke yourself in an effort to save just one person, so the way I see it, you are a liability. As far as I see, I consider you unworthy of calling yourself a hero student. At that moment, Izuku's face changed to its ape-like visage. Aizawa couldn't believe it, as he was still using his quirk. That's not gonna work on me, said Monkey. Host Body is on a bit of a vacation at the moment. You're stuck with me now. That's impossible, snarled Aizawa. It's possible, said Monkey. Your quirk doesn't work on the faunus or apparently people like Host Body, just as I thought it wouldn't. Would that not make you a liability? Aizawa stopped using his quirk, but his glare didn't cease. Midoriya, keep your other half under control and try again, he huffed. Izuku's face returned to normal as he retrieved the softball. This time, Monkey said in his head, use about 50% of my power. I want to save what happens when you use all of it for an emergency. Got it, Izuku muttered as he threw the ball far into the horizon. Deku, Bakugo screamed, how the hell did you get a quirk, you quirkless mother? But then, Aizawa's capture cloth restrained the explosive boy. Quit your noise, said Aizawa. I'm getting dry eye from you. Okay, now repeat after me, said Monkey before whispering what he wanted him to say. It's not all in the wrist, Izuku said, earning him hated growls from Bakugo. Worth it, said Monkey. As the quirk assessment test wore on, Aizawa was beginning to resent the no drinking on the job rule Nizu put in place after the incident involving Recovery Girl and the piano. Round after round of tests and the result was the same. Izuku always came out on top. The standing long jump? Got ahead of a boy named Siro, who had to use his tape quirk just to keep up. The 50-meter dash? He managed to tie with Yayarosa despite her using her quirk to create an electric scooter. The grip test? Forget it. Shoji, an octopus faunus with a sleeveless uniform and a mask that covered his mouth, had a higher score than Bakugo, but a lower score than Izuku. This is all the rat's fault, Aizawa thought as he displayed the final scores. To his shock, Izuku found himself the highest scorer, second only behind Todoroki. Mineta wailed in terror when he saw his name at the bottom. By the way, Aizawa smirked, no one is getting expelled. It was a logical ruse to get you lot to perform at your best. He lied? Asked Ochako. Well, of course, said Yayarozu. What kind of teacher would expel students on the first day? The other students shot withering glares at Yayarozu. I guess I should have said something sooner, she said meekly. Go back to class and collect your syllabi, said Aizawa as he left the field. Later, after math class with ectoplasm, Izuku found his way to the cafeteria for lunch, which was being cooked by the hero, Lunch Rush, a man with mechanical parts and a tube where his head should have been. It didn't take long for Ochako to join him. I'm telling you, she's crushing hard on you, Monkey said. So, where should we sit? Ochako asked. I'm not sure yet, said Izuku as he looked around. He then found the perfect place and smiled. Momo found herself eating in a corner of the cafeteria. What a fine mess I've made of things, she thought sadly, And here I was hoping for a better school experience than when I was in middle school. Mind if we sit here? Asked a voice. It's perfectly acceptable, said Momo. She looked up to see Ochako and Izuku sitting in front of her. Oh, it's you, she said, the one with the quirk Aizawa-sensei couldn't erase. Are you all right? Asked Izuku as he and Ochako sat in front of her. Can't say I am, said Momo. I made a fool of myself and everyone is rightly upset. So you made a mistake, said Ochako. It's not the end of the world. It sure feels like it, said Momo glumly. At least they kept the insults to themselves. You're selling yourself rather short, said Izuku. I mean, what you did was incredible. You made a cannon, an electric scooter, and a pogo stick from thin air. How do you do that? Well, explained Momo, it's not from thin air exactly. My quirk is called creation, and it allows me to make any non-living material as long as I know the atomic structure and chemical makeup from lipids in my body. Though that means I need to show a lot of skin and I have to eat a lot more after creating something, hence. Momo sheepishly gestured to the large amount of food on her plate. That's so cool, said Izuku. If you knew the structural composition, you could make things like knockout gas or electrical circuits, or even computers. I actually did make a laptop, said Momo, but that was 3 years ago. Cool, said a voice. Everyone looked over to see Mina had sat down to Momo's right. When did you get here? She asked. 5 minutes ago, said Mina. Thought you could use some cheering up, and by the looks of things, these two agreed. Anyway, if your quirk works like how you say you can you make a lightsaber? Perhaps, said Momo. What's a lightsaber? Mina gasped in horror before grinning widely. Oh, I have such sights to show you, she beamed. Hey, count host body in two, said Monkey as Izuku's face transformed. He hasn't seen a Star Wars either. How'd you do that? Asked Momo. I'm his other half, Monkey, said Monkey. I see, said Momo as Izuku transformed back. Don't mind him, said Izuku. He's like a brother that's always around. I wouldn't know what to do without him. He already sounds like a swell fella, said Mina. I especially like how he told Aizawa-sensei off. There's nothing I hate more than a bully. She'll really hate Bakugo then, said Monkey from inside Izuku's head. As Izuku, Ochako, and Mina talked with each other, Momo silently sighed with relief. True friends at last, she thought happily, but it won't last. Not when they find out who Mother is. At last, the students of Class 1A arrived for their heroics class. I am here, coming through the door like a normal person, All Might proclaimed as he stormed in cheerily. While Izuku and Monkey knew about All Might's teaching thanks to the acceptance letter, the other students were shocked. All Might pulled out his cue cards from his yellow suit's pocket. Ahem, he said. Hello students, my name is All Might, and I will be your heroics instructor. Today, we will be doing a battle trial. Yes, I think that should do. I thought we were doing a costume assessment, said Toru. I asked for permission to push that back by a day or two so Midnight could get a look at your outfits more thoroughly when her schedule cleared up this evening, All Might explained, she insisted. Now, come on. Let's head to Ground Beta. They say that the clothes make the heroes, and all of you look especially heroic today. Indeed, everyone was wearing some fantastic costumes, except Mineta, who looked like he was wearing a big white diaper. Izuku walked out of the changing room wearing a green outfit with a metal respirator and big, green bunny ears. I love Mom for making this, but we can do so much better, said Monkey. At least it's better than Mineta's, said Izuku as he looked at the small boy trying to cozy up to the girls without success, fortunately. Then, Izuku looked over to see Ochako running over wearing a tight, black spacesuit with a pink visor, white, heeled boots, and a pink belt. They made this costume a little too tight, she said as she looked herself over. What's up with the bunny ears? They're supposed to be All Might's hair antennae, said Izuku as he held down his bunny ears. All right, students, any questions before we begin? Asked All Might. How will we teams be chosen? What's the maximum time we need in order to prepare? When do I blow everyone up? Is my cape not tray chic? What's up with Captain Glitter but over there? Asked Monkey. Izuku shrugged. One at a time please, said All Might. To answer the first one, we'll draw lots. Everyone, pick a letter from the hat. He held out a top hat with index cards inside. Izuku reached in and pulled out a card with the letter E. Ochako also managed to get an E, which she was very ecstatic about. Seriously, how do you explain that look if she doesn't have a crush on you? Monkey asked. She gets to be partners with a friend, said Izuku, causing Monkey to scream. Soon enough, everyone had teamed up with their respective partners. Okay, said All Might, here's how the battle trial will go. Inside that building is an atomic bomb. The villain team is going to defend it from the hero team. The winner of the exercise will be determined by one of two things. Either a member of the hero team touches the bomb, or all members of a given team around stuck with this roll of capture tape. So, who's going first? Asked Kaminari. A blonde student with a lightning bolt streak dyed into his hair. That would be Dada, these guys. Team E as the heroes and Team D as the villains, said All Might as he gestured to Izuku, Ochako, Bakugo, and Momo. Both teams have exactly 15 minutes to prepare. Izuku and Ochako picked up their earpieces so that they could communicate with All Might if need be. I already have a plan to deal with Kaken, but Yaoyorozu is going to be the real challenge, said Izuku. She's probably already got the place Bube trapped. Maybe we can use that to our advantage. How so, Deku? Asked Ochako. Well, stuttered Izuku, if you can manipulate the gravity of the room, maybe we can float the bomb over to us. Sounds like a good enough plan to me, Deku, said Ochako. At that moment, Izuku's eyes began to glow green. You shouldn't call Izuku that, said Monkey. Bakugo uses it as a way to refer to him as useless. Oh, said Ochako, I thought it was short for Dikairu. You can do it, you know? Live and learn, kid, said Monkey as he put a hand on her shoulder. Host body's aware you mean no harm by it. Just call him by his first name. Time's up, said All Might. Both teams, enter the building. Okay, let's go, said Izuku. Bakugo adjusted his grenade gauntlets as Momo prepared some traps. You done yet, Ponytail? He asked gruffly. Not yet, and I have a name, you know, said Momo as she placed down the components for a cannon. This is frickin' stupid, said Bakugo. You can make those useless toys all you want, but I'm going to put Deku in his place now. What's your problem with him? Asked Momo. He's a psycho-stalker, always talking about quirks and being a hero when he's a useless Deku. Bakugo spat with rage. Taking him out is our first priority. Now come on, Beach. Leave the cannon and help me get him. He stormed out of the room, leaving Momo fuming. Inside the observation deck, All Might and the other students watched the security camera footage as Aizawa walked. Aizawa, what brings you to my class? All Might asked. Midoriya, said Aizawa, there's something off about him. I want to see how he handles this challenge. Inside the building, Izuku and Ochako found themselves inside of a wide, empty room. Just then, the door to the stairwell was blown out and there stood Bakugo. Go, said Izuku, we can handle him. Ochako then floated up the floors above as Bakugo surged forward. He threw a right hook, only for Izuku to grab him by the arm and toss him over his shoulder. Then he kicked Bakugo into the wall. Bakugo shrieked with rage before firing an explosion, which Izuku dodged. As Ochako watched them fight, Momo ran over and sent her flying with her bow staff. Bakugo is a delusional narcissist, she snarled. I'll let him tire himself out while I deal with the real threat, you. Momo swung her staff, hitting one of the support columns as Ochako dodged. She dodged again as Momo tried to kick her. Ochako then flipped over Momo before landing behind her and connecting her fingers. Suddenly, Momo began to float. But then, she pulled a grappling hook out of her stomach and used it to tangle Ochako before pulling herself towards her opponent. Ochako then returned the gravity, causing Momo to fall to the ground. But then, Momo threw down a net, tangling Ochako. Down below, Izuku punched Bakugo in the face before kicking him back. Deku, he snarled, I know you're scared shitless, but you're continuing to fight. That's why I hate you. He ran forward, only for Izuku to dodge his attacks and hit him in the face with a rock. That's where you're wrong, Kaken, said Izuku as he hoisted Bakugo into the air. I don't fear you anymore. He then tossed Bakugo into a wall. Bakugo spat before reaching the pin on one of his gauntlets. Izuku's eyes widened. "Oh, you remember this," smiled Bakugo sadistically. "These bad boys hold triple the amount of sweat need for my explosions. Just enough for me to do this." "Young Bakugo, stop," cried All Might. "That attack could kill him." "Not if he dodges," said Bakugo coldly. "Call the match, quick," cried Mina. "Not yet," said Aizawa. "I want to see this." Bakugo pulled the pin and fired a massive explosion that engulfed Izuku and sent debris falling onto him. "Izuku!" Ochako cried out. Momo felt tears escape her eyes as Bakugo cruelly laughed. "I did it," he proclaimed. "I beat shitty Deku. Ahahaha." Cue song, Given Up by Linkin Park. Just then, out of the rubble burst a large, furry hand. Bakugo turned to see a massive beast crawl out of the debris pile. It was over 15 feet tall, had thick, green fur, gray skin, large muscles, a wrinkled face and glowing, green eyes. Momo gasped as she beheld the beast, a massive, green gorilla. The creature then reared up on his hind legs and roared while beating his chest. Bakugo tried to attack, but a single flick from the green gorilla's fingers shattered his gauntlets. Then the beast punched him, sending him flying to the ground. The green gorilla snorted before sitting on top of him. Now, I don't know if you've ever experienced it yourself, but 50 tons of gorilla butt on your upper body? Not a pleasant thing to be under. "Get off me, you dirty ape," Bakugo screamed. "Pupadu." Bakugo was nearly catatonic as the green gorilla got off of him, having been sprayed by his gorilla gas. "What a vulgar display," Momo snorted before fleeing upstairs. The green gorilla recovered the capture tape and taped down Bakugo's arm to the ground. "Bakugo has been captured," All Might announced. 10 minutes remaining. Then, he climbed to where Ochako was and ripped the net away. "Good thing she didn't use the capture tape," said Ochako. "Come on, let's get that bomb before the time runs out." The green gorilla nodded before slamming his fists against the wall, shattering it. He held out his hand and Ochako climbed in as the green gorilla began to climb the building. "President Evil." Momo ran back into the room with the bomb and barricaded the door, breathing heavily. "Now what?" she asked. She looked around and saw the incomplete cannon at her feet. "This should hold him off," she said as she began piecing the cannon together. Suddenly, the green gorilla burst through the window, taking Momo by surprise. But then, as he stepped forward, the green gorilla triggered a bear trap that caught him by the leg. Even though the blades were blunted, the green gorilla still howled in pain. He then kicked the side of the bear trap, breaking it open. Momo then fired her cannon, hitting the green gorilla in the face. "Yes," cheered Momo. Unfortunately, the green gorilla wasn't fazed by the attack and he then slammed his fists into the cannon, shattering it on impact. Momo then threw a set of bola ropes, tying up Ochako as she tried to sneak over to the bomb. But then, the green gorilla charged, only for Momo to slide under him and pull out a taser. Momo jabbed the taser into the green gorilla's leg, shocking him. The beast knocked the taser away and growled at Momo. "Hero team wins," proclaimed All Might. "All teams are to return to the observation room." Momo looked over to see that Ochako had floated herself to the bomb and touched it. "I failed," Momo whispered. Ochako and Momo walked through the entrance to the observation room and took their places next to All Might. The green gorilla tried to get in but bonked his head on the doorframe. "Try turning back, dumb butt," said Jiro Kyoka, a punk girl with headphone jacks dangling from her ears. The green gorilla smacked his forehead before shrinking down back into Izuku, now wearing the tattered remains of his hero costume. Momo caught herself staring at Izuku's chiseled abs, causing Ochako to feel more than a little jealous. "Here," sputtered Momo as she pulled out a t-shirt and handed it to Izuku. "Thanks," said Izuku as he threw it on. "Now then," said All Might, "who would you say is the MVP of this battle trial?" "It was Midoriya," said Kirishima, a boy with spiky red hair. "The way he turned into that big monkey was so manly, I want to cry." "Seconded," said Kaminari. "Young Midoriya, would you agree with that assessment?" All Might asked. "Actually, I would say Yaoyorozu was the MVP," said Izuku. Unlike her partner, she didn't lose sight of the end goal and at least attempted to protect the bomb. In addition, she improvised multiple solutions to the problems presented during the exercise, such as blocking the window with a bear trap and going after Ochako. Her only failing was not anticipating my transformation. I second that, said Ida. I'll even add that Yaoyorozu could have won the exercise on her own had Midoriya not transformed. Is everyone in agreement with young Midoriya's assessment? All Might asked. Half of the students present murmured. Then young Yaoyorozu, you are this match's MVP, said All Might. Even though I failed? Momo asked. Don't lose heart, young Yaoyorozu, All Might said, putting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. These battle trials are meant to show just where you could improve. You did the best you could. Momo smiled softly. Hey, where's Bakugo? Asked Mina. Bakugo was still in the building, getting sprayed down by the medic robots. Why? Asked one of them. Why was I programmed with a sense of smell? I don't know, just clean the sheet cleaner, said another robot. Sure thing, jackass, the robot muttered under his circuits. Soon enough, the day had ended and all of the students were leaving the school. Izuku walked down the stairs, only to be stopped by a loud explosion. There stood Bakugo, his hands steaming as the anger that flashed in his eyes became evident. You don't think he's about the two of us passing gas on him, do you? Asked Monkey. Deku, you worthless sheet, Bakugo screamed. Oh, he's mad, said Izuku. Was this your plan? Snarled Bakugo. You were hiding your quirk from me? Looking down on me this whole time? Hey, back off, said Mina as she stood between Izuku and Bakugo. Step away, raccoon eyes, said Bakugo. This is between me and Deku. His name, growled Mina, is Izuku, just like how mine is Mina. Not Deku, not raccoon eyes. You keep this bullshit up, and I'll have you begging to be sent to the principal's office. She and Bakugo stared intensely at each other, ready for the other to attack. Tis whatever, said Bakugo before he walked off. Rotten animal, muttered Mina. Ah, no offense. None taken, said Monkey, before Izuku took control again. You didn't have to do that, he said. Hard disagree right there, said Mina. We're trying to be heroes, and heroes don't let someone with a complex beat down on the little guy. I don't know, said Izuku as he walked down the stairs. I'm guessing that's the first time someone else went to bat for you, said Mina. You could say that, said Izuku. DMNJRK, said Mina. As long as I'm alive, I'll never be friends with Bakugo. Isn't that a bit harsh? Asked Izuku. I said I hated bullies and I meant it, said Mina. My old school had teachers and bullies who like making life miserable for Faunus or friends of the Faunus. Gee, doesn't that sound familiar? Monkey asked bitterly. It went on for a while and, eventually, Kirishima and I had enough, said Mina. We got suspended after what we did, but it was worth it. So, we decided to be heroes and stop other bullies and bigots. Is there any reason you'd like to be a hero? Well, said Izuku, I've always admired the way All Might went out of his way to stand up for people who couldn't stand up for themselves. That was the kind of hero I wanted to be. Dude, respect, smiled Mina as they walked home. Back inside the school, All Might and Nizu decided to have a secret meeting and review the footage of the battle trial. My word, said Nizu as he saw the green gorilla break free from the rubble. I didn't think he could do that, said All Might. How do you think he pulled it off? Obviously, he used all of the strength afforded to him, said Nizu, quite a unique case. Speaking of which, said All Might as he pointed to Bakugo, laughing cruelly as he stood over the pile of rubble, what do you suggest we do with him? I assume Aizawa said he was going to talk to him, asked Nizu. You assume correctly, said All Might. Nizu looked over his files on the students and scowled. Leave him to me, said Nizu with a wicked smile. All Might shuddered but then realized something. Did you ever find out who that book belonged to? He asked. Not just yet, said Nizu as he looked inside of the book, but I have a good guess. His paw traced a sketch of an Ankh inside the front cover. A few days later, Momo walked down the halls of the school, humming a happy tune to herself. Just as she turned a corner, she noticed Mina, Kyoka, a frog faunus named Azui, and Ochako pointing and laughing at her. What's so funny? Momo nervously asked. You tell me, Mama's girl, Mina laughed cruelly. Momo looked down and found herself wearing a thin, white outfit with a tight black corset, broken H&D-CFFS, and black high heels. Suddenly, Momo was struck on the cheek as the girls laughed and jeered. She looked up to see Bakugo, smiling wickedly as he prepared his gauntlets. Slots like you don't deserve to be heroes, he laughed cruelly. No one will miss you when I'm done. He then fired his gauntlets at full power. Momo awoke with a JRK, finding herself still in her bedroom, alone. She took a few breaths before letting out a few shallow tears. Momo, darling, said a voice behind the door. You okay in there? Momo took a deep breath. I'm all right, Mother, she said. I just need to get changed. Okay, Peaches, said the voice. Your father is already getting breakfast ready. I'll be out in a bit, Momo managed to choke out as she wiped away her tears. Midnight waited just a little bit longer outside of Momo's door before walking downstairs. She sighed as she took her seat at the breakfast table. Another nightmare? Asked her husband, Ishiro Yaoyorozu, a man in his mid-40s with flecks of gray in his black hair. Yep, said Midnight. Honestly, All Might should have been allowed to call the match. I'm sure her homeroom teacher will talk it out with her, said Ishiro. Are you kidding? Asked Midnight. Aizawa is the reason All Might didn't all the match. It amazes me he still has a job, said Ishiro. Well, Nizu works in mysterious ways, giggled Midnight. Still though, I'll need to broach the topic with Nizu at some point today. At that moment, Momo entered the room and adjusted her spiky ponytail. Midnight watched with a smile as her daughter addressed their servants regally. You excited? Asked Midnight. Not particularly, why? Momo said as she took a seat. It's Thursday, said Midnight. Oh joy, art class day, said Momo between bites. That's right, said Midnight giggling joyfully. I'm especially looking forward to seeing more of Midoriya's work. He might even give your father a run for his money. Ishiro glared at his wife, who chuckled sheepishly. Now I really hope he tries courting my darling, he thought, so I can shoot him out of a cannon personally. Also, today I hear they're going to pick out a class president for your class, Peaches, Midnight said. Aizawa-sensei would have said something about that yesterday, Momo said. First lesson of Aizawa is a goddamn liar, said Midnight. You have no idea how much fun it is ruining his logical ruses. Honestly, I should have started years ago. Momo noted her mother's quiet expression, one she had grown increasingly familiar with over the last year. Well, said Midnight as her smile returned, it's time to go. I'll see you later, Peaches. Have a good day, said Momo, not looking away from her food as Midnight kissed Ishiro and took off. Please don't be the reason I don't have friends again, Momo begged silently. Later that day, Momo arrived at UA in the back of her father's limo to find a swarm of reporters outside the school walls. Momo took a breath before walking out of the limo. What's it like having All Might as a teacher? The reporters asked repeatedly, as if someone needed to hit the jukebox again. No comment, Momo said, not taking her eyes off the front entrance. She looked to her left as soon as she made it inside and saw Izuku. Hey, Yaoyorozu, how's your morning going? He asked. It's fine thus far, said Momo. What about you? I've noticed you haven't transformed since the battle trial. Well, there's not a reason to yet, said Monkey. Host Body is worried about time limits or something like that. He seems to think we're... Okay, that's enough, said Izuku as his face transformed back. Just then Ochako ran up. Those reporters are just at the worst, she said. Indeed, said Present Mike with an uncharacteristic glare on his face. I'll deal with them first. Izuku, Momo, and Ochako all shuddered. Soon enough, they arrived in class. Aizawa was there, glaring disdainfully at his students. 10 seconds, he snarled. You're getting better, but not by much. Today, you are making a life-or-death decision. Is it for who's getting to be class president? Momo asked. Aizawa glared at her, only to be distracted by Izuku's hand turning into an ape-like hand. Yes, he said. I don't care how you do it, just make a decision before the next bell. With that, Aizawa zipped up his sleeping bag and his heavy snores filled the air. So, not how are we picking the class president? Mina asked. Let's fight for the position, suggested Kirishima. Hell yeah, let's do that, Bakugo yelled. No, said Ida, we should put it to a vote. But won't that mean people will just vote for themselves, Ribbit? Asked Azui. Azui is right, said Ochako. Call me Tsuyu Ribbit, Tsuyu said. How about this, said Ida, whoever gets the most votes is the obvious winner. Okay. Sounds good. You ready to be king of the class, host body? Monkey asked. I don't see it happening, said Izuku. I'll put in a vote for someone who could really use it. Looks like our winner is Midoriya, said Tsuyu. Izuku was speechless. Momo was even less full of speech, having gotten second place for the first time since. Actually, this was her first time in second place. Next I'll get AB in my classes, Momo thought sadly. Just then, the bell rang and Class 1A made their way to art class. So, Prez, what do you think is going to happen in this class? Mina asked. Not sure, said Izuku. Midnight is always full of surprises. Fortunately for everyone not named Mineta, Midnight had everyone work on sketches of various heroes. Very nice, Midoriya, said Midnight. My husband couldn't sketch All Might as well. Midnight then walked over to see Momo sketching a self-portrait. Impressive, said Midnight with a wink. I see a confident young lady willing to make her mark on the world. Momo smiled in spite of herself. Hey, check it out, said Monkey from inside Izuku's head. See something familiar? Yeah, it's still Yaoyorozu, Izuku thought. Remember when you said she looked familiar on Monday? Monkey asked. Izuku took another glance as Midnight continued praising Momo's sketch. Hair looks similar, Izuku thought, so do their cheekbones and eyes. You think they're related? We'll ask after class, said Monkey. As soon as the bell rang, Izuku rushed over to talk to Momo. Can we talk somewhere before lunch? He asked. Certainly, said Momo as she led him into a quiet part of the hallway. What seems to be the matter? Well, I wanted to congratulate you on winning the position of vice president, stammered Izuku. In all honesty, I think you should have been class president. That's very nice, but... Clearly, some are still upset at what happened at the quirk assessment test, said Momo. Clearly, my first impression wasn't the best. Yeah, but look at what happened in the battle trial, said Izuku. What I said back there was true. You were awesome. Was reassuring Yaoyorozu the reason you guys didn't leave for lunch? Midnight asked. I've got papers to grade here. Sorry, we're on our way out, said Momo with a bow. I've said it before, you don't need to bow when apologizing, said Midnight. Now go, you don't want to be hungry in the next class. As the two walked down the empty hallways, Izuku spoke up. So, Monkey is curious about something involving you, he said. What is it? Momo asked curiously. You have to promise not to get mad first, Izuku said. Momo blinked but then remembered that Izuku had grown up with Bakugo. Getting mad at a simple question was all he probably knew. You have my word as a Yaoyorozu, Momo smiled. Izuku took a deep breath. Are you and Midnight Sensei related? He managed to blurt out. What? Monkey and I thought you two look alike, Izuku explained. Oh, sighed Momo, she's my mother. Izuku let out a small gasp. If you no longer wish to be my friend, I'll understand, Momo said sorrowfully. Why would I not want to be your friend? Izuku asked. Because that's what people normally do when they find out who mother is, said Momo, fighting back tears. Yeah, well those people SCK, said Izuku, shocking Momo. I meant what I said about how you should have been class president. You're a far better leader than I am. If those people hate you for who your mom is, to hell with them. That's very sweet of you, Monkey, said Momo. That's not Monkey talking, said Izuku. His mouth is way filthier. Momo chuckled. Trust me, said Izuku. If you tell everybody, no one is going to not want to be friends with you, said Izuku. Now come on. There's still time for lunch. Outside, the reporters lamented their lack of stories. While most of the ones from reputable newspapers left, the seedy gossip writers stuck around, looking for any way to get inside of UA Academy. Unknown to them, a purple mist appeared near the wall, and a gray hand reached toward the wall. Hey look, said a reporter, there's a hole over here. The greedy journalists ran in, unaware that someone was among them, searching for something. Back in the cafeteria, Momo had finished, with some encouragement from Izuku, telling Ochako and Mina about what she and Izuku were talking about in the halls. "Just," muttered Mina, "they should never have hurt you like that, Yamamo." "Yamamo?" asked Momo. "Yeah, your last name is hard to pronounce, so I went and gave you a cute nickname." Momo giggled, which made Mina smile. "So, what else is on the docket?" asked Ochako. "You're not quitting your position," said Momo. "I think you just need to grow into it, Midoriya." "She's right," said Monkey. "You only need to prove yourself to yourself." "Tell you what, Midori," said Mina, "if you don't feel confident as class president, I'll take over." Just then an alarm went off. All the students panicked and tried to rush out, pinning other students against the wall. "What's going on?" Ochako asked. "Reporters got in," said Ida, "but everyone thinks it's a villain attack." Suddenly, Izuku became the green gorilla and let out a mighty roar as he slammed his fists down, smashing 2 of the tables. "My tables!" cried Lunch Rush. The green gorilla growled, making certain he had everyone's attention. He then turned back into Izuku and said, "It's a false alarm. Quit panicking and check for injuries. You're hero students. Don't let an alarm scare you." As soon as everyone calmed down, Mina threw an arm around his shoulder. "Looks like Yamamo was right," she said. "You sure showed them." "Yeah," smiled Izuku, "I did. Let's get shiggy with it." Later on, Nizu and the rest of the UA staff looked over the hole in the outer walls. "What could have made this?" asked Vlad King. "A disintegration quirk, most likely," said Aizawa. "By the looks of it, it could be activated by a 5-point touch." "Which begs the question," said Snipe, "what were they after here?" All Might and Nizu looked over the damage. "You don't think they were after the book, do you?" he whispered. "If you're that person, there are other, more subtle ways to steal a dusty, old rag," Nizu whispered. "All the same, we need to be on high alert." Aizawa glared daggers at the 2 of them before leaving in a huff. The next day was a Friday, which meant it was a field trip day. "Okay, how do you want to approach this?" Monkey asked Momo. "Aizawa-sensei said it's just a bus that's taking us to the location," said Momo. "Aizawa-sensei also said he washes before bed, but that's not true either," said Monkey. "For all we know, there could be a bomb on that thing." "Focus on the task at hand," said Ida, chopping his arm robotically. "How will we be seated?" Monkey thought for a bit. "How would you do it?" he asked at last. "I'd have everyone seated by their seat numbers in class," Ida said loudly. "Okay, you heard the man," said Monkey. "Everyone by their seat numbers." As soon as the doors opened, everyone piled in, only to find the seats were lined up against the windows rather than each other. "Woo-hoo, free for all," Kaminari yelled. Said Momo. "You, Mineta, and Bakugo can sit in the back." "Good enough for me," said Kaminari as he, Mineta, who was weeping like a baby, and Bakugo went to the back of the bus. Momo, Izuku, and Ochako sat near the doors as Aizawa got in to lackadaisically do a head count. He almost growled when he realized that Izuku, or rather Monkey, was still in his class, despite his multiple complaints. "Okay, let's go," he grunted to the bus driver, another robot. Soon, the bus was speeding along the highway. "All right, may I speak with Izuku now?" Momo asked. Izuku's face returned to normal. "I don't know why he keeps appearing during our meetings," said Momo. "I'm almost certain the class voted for you." "Well, my brother tends to have all the good ideas," said Izuku. "He also wants to say that he's half the reason I got elected. Either way, we need to occupy ourselves until we arrive at our destination," said Momo. "Don't you guys have class president stuff to do?" Ochako asked. "Got it done a day early," said Izuku. "How about this?" said Momo. "Why don't we talk about what kind of heroes we want to be?" "Sounds good to me," said Ochako. "I'd like to be a rescue hero." "I'm more of a brawler," said Shoji. "Might be like Mirko, I'm not sure." "Pee-pee," said Bakugo. "I'll be more popular than any so-called hero on this bus." "I doubt it," said Tsu. "Bakugo is too angry and rude to ever be popular, Ribbit." "The hell did you just say, frog face?" "See." Momo shuddered at the thought of Bakugo even getting close to the top 10. Honestly, huffed Ochako, Izuku has a better chance of being a popular hero than him. Oh, first name basis are we, said Mina, sporting the biggest, sheet-eating grin Momo had ever seen. It's not like that, I swear, Ochako said, her face turning bright red. Quiet, said Aizawa, we're here. The bus stopped in front of a massive, domed building. As they walked inside the garden courtyard, they were greeted by a person wearing an astronaut suit. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, said Ochako, it's the space hero, 13. Greetings, Class 1A, said 13, welcome to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short. This is where you will be tested in the event of any natural disasters, such as shipwrecks, landslides, volcanoes, hurricanes, and wildfires. Here, we will simulate all of these and more in order to test your rescue capabilities. Just then, Izuku's face transformed and he raised his hand. Yes, Midoriya? 13 asked. Not to be rude, but it's Monkey, and I was wondering if jungle environments are among those in the USJ, Monkey said. Well, people in the jungle need to be rescued, so yes, said 13. Now, ordinarily, All Might would be here to help explain it better, but he had a health emergency, so he'll be a bit late. Just then, purple smoke filled the courtyard. What's that? Asked Kyoka. Obviously, another of Aizawa-sensei's tricks, said Monkey. Suddenly, 3 figures emerged from the smoke. One was a man with a gray vest, suit pants, and a metal neck brace whose body was covered in purple smoke. Another was a short man with black clothing and severed hands covering his face and arms. The last was a monster with an exposed brain, massive muscles, and a beak filled with sharp teeth. I'll bet these are scare actors working for the school, scoffed Monkey. No, cried 13, those are real villains. At those words, an army of villains stormed through the purple smoke. Greetings, hero students of you, said the man with the hands. You will all have the privilege of being the first to die by the hands of the League of Villains. Send the signal, said Aizawa. They've jammed all communications. First Vanguard, attack, said the hand villain. Aizawa took off his capture cloth and used it as a whip to knock back several villains. But then, 7 villains with baseball bats attacked, hitting him from every angle. Aizawa kicked 2 away before whipping a third. He then swung that villain into his 4 buddies. Kurogyri, this is your moment to strike, said the hand villain. Already on it for this one, young Shigaraki, said Kurogyri as he readied his purple smoke. Not on my watch, said 13 as they pulled off their glove. Kurogyri planted his feet in the ground as 13's black hole started pulling in his smoke. Your power is no match for the might of the League of Villains, said Shigaraki. When we're done with the mooks here, we'll kill the final boss, All Might. Kurogyri then made a portal in front of himself before creating one behind 13. The force of 13's black hole started to tear away at their suit and back, scarring them. A rescue hero like yourself is ill-suited for combat, said Kurogyri. Kindly surrender. I got him, snarled Bakugo. Kaken no, cried Izuku, but it was too late. Kurogyri saw him rocketing towards Shigaraki and used his purple smoke to warp away him. Izuku, Todoroki, Momo, Kyoka, Toru, Aoyama, Kirishima, Kaminari, Tsuyu, and Mineta. Ochako, Mina, Ida, Siro, Fumikage, Koda, and Shoji were left to deal with the monster and the other villains. 13 readied their black hole, only for Kurogyri to warp a large boulder through the ground and behind them, knocking them out of the fight. Ida, said Aizawa, get through the exit and get help from Yue. I'll hold them off as long as I can. With that, Ida ran off using his super speed. Shigaraki laughed cruelly as the monster loomed behind him. Nomu, crush Eraser Head, he ordered. The Nomu roared and charged forward. Meanwhile, Izuku found himself atop a sinking ship. Sheet, cried Monkey, they couldn't just let us go into the jungle. Just then an explosion went off, and Izuku looked up to see a vulture faunus flying overhead, wielding a bazooka. The vulture fired another shot, causing Izuku to fall into the water. Just then, Tsuyu grabbed the villain with her long tongue and dragged him down in order to kick him in the head. She then dove into the water and pulled Izuku out. "Why didn't you swim?" she asked. "Don't know how to," said Izuku, "and Monkey is afraid of the water." "What about me?" asked Mineta, who was struggling to swim. Izuku just grabbed him by his cape and threw him onto shore. "Oh," groaned Mineta, "I just wanted to touch those natural life preservers." Tsuyu hit the creep with her tongue. Just then, more villains rushed in to attack. Izuku kicked one while Tsuyu whipped another with her tongue. Mineta pulled his hairball out and chucked them at two other villains, sticking them to the ground. Izuku ran forward and slammed both of them into the ground. "That takes care of them," said Tsuyu as she kicked the last villain in the head. "Now what?" "We need to go back," said Izuku. Aizawa-sensei and 13-sensei were with the others. "We need to help them." "Are you crazy?" Mineta cried. "We almost died." "So how do you think they're doing?" Tsuyu asked. "You think those villains will stop at just us? You're a coward, you know that?" "She's right," said Izuku. "Stay here if you want. We're going to be heroes." As the two of them walked off, Mineta groaned before following them. Meanwhile, in the mountain zone, Momo, Kaminari, and Kyoka got up off the rocky ground. "We're in the mountain zone," said Kaminari. "No sheet, jamming yay," snarled Kyoka. "Where are the others?" "Looks like they've been scattered," said Momo. "We need to wait for them to come to us." "Why is that?" asked Kyoka. "Because that's what my parents told me to do when I got lost," said Momo. "We'll stay put until help arrives." Just then, a swarm of villains arrived. "Okay, now what?" asked Kyoka. "We'll have to fight them," said Momo as she pulled a bow staff out of her arm. Villains charged forward, only for Momo to knock three of them out with a single swing of her bow staff, while Kyoka slammed the other two thugs' heads into the ground. Kaminari fired short blasts of lightning before sending on electric punch to another villain. Kyoka then stabbed one villain with her earjacks, allowing Momo to hit him with her bow staff. Kaminari then blasted away the rest of the villains with his lightning. Kyoka then plugged one of her jacks into her boots, sending out sonic waves that knocked the villains back. Momo then fired nets, capturing the last of them as Kaminari zapped three of them with his electricity. Suddenly, a villain with a skull mask burst from under the ground and grabbed him. "No use hitting me with your zappy pops," said the villain as he put Kaminari in a headlock. "I can absorb electricity." "Let's see how much you can take then," said Kaminari. "Jamming yay, don't do it," cried Kyoka. Kaminari started sending out surges of electric power into the air. "Get down," said Momo as a large bulge started forming on the back of her costume. Suddenly, it burst, covering the girls in an insulated blanket as lightning surged through the air. The villain screamed in pain before flying back, his body covered in burns. "Do you think it's safe to come out yet?" asked Kyoka as she peeked out from under the blanket. "Not just yet," said Momo. "Just make sure the coast is clear." "Already on eye." Kyoka's words trailed off as she looked at Momo, whose costume was torn all to hell, exposing part of her upper body. "You know that you're looking a little overexposed." Kyoka turned away with her hand over her eyes. "Not this again," sighed Momo. "I think it's safe, so go. I'll catch up in a bit." As Kyoka ran out, she thought she could hear Kyoka scream, "Jamming yay, don't you dare look." Kaminari's electric attack had backfired. While the villain was out for the count, he fried his own brain to do it. At that moment, Izuku, Mineta, and Tsuyu arrived. "Is he all right?" asked Tsuyu. "He fried his brain trying to save us," said Kyoka. "Right now, I'm trying to keep him from peeping on Yamamo." Izuku then picked Mineta up by the scruff of his neck. "Yeah, good call," said Kyoka. "How far are we from the entrance?" asked Tsuyu. "Approximately 2 zones away," said Momo as she walked over, tightening her belt. "If we don't run into any more villains, we should be there in the next 10 minutes. "Wait, what about the others?" asked Izuku. "Already here," said a disembodied voice belonging to Toru. "Todoroki and I just got out of the Inferno Zone." At once, Todoroki walked over. "Let's get this over with," he said, not even looking at the others as he walked past. He immediately began applying cold water to the villain's burns. "Strange," said Kyoka. "He's cold towards us, but displays compassion for the wounded." "Might have something to do with his father," said Monkey. Father? Asked Toru. His dad is Endeavor, the Hellfire hero, Tsuyu explained. Speaking of Hellfire, where's Bakugo? Asked Mineta. A loud explosion and the screaming of the word, die, filled the air in the distance. Found him, said Monkey. Everyone ran over to the desert zone, where Kirishima was punching out 2 goons with his rocky fists, while Bakugo knocked the last 5 away with the force of his explosions. Yeah, he cried, eat that, you shitty beaches. At that moment, Momo walked over and slapped him. You moron, she snarled. If you hadn't jumped in when 13 was fighting that warp villain, we wouldn't be in this situation. Yeah, said Tsuyu, all of what we just went through is your fault. Hang on guys, said Kirishima, I know we're all mad at Bakubro, but how is that going to help us here? Everyone, even Monkey, conceded to that point. Suddenly, another villain wearing blue armor and a blue face mask appeared. Prepare to meet your gods, children, he said, extending a set of blades from his wrists. Todoroki fired his freezing ice at him, only for the villain to absorb the hit. The villain then fired his blades, forcing everyone to dodge. Hey, these aren't metal, said Mineta, it's black ice. The villain leaped down and began to fight Momo with a long piece of ice sharpened like a sword. Momo hit him in the stomach, only for the villain to slice her bow staff in half. Todoroki then fired another blast of ice at the villain. Izuku noticed small embers coming off of his left arm as the villain kicked Momo and punched Tsuyu in the face. Todoroki, he cried, you need to use your flames on him. I'll never use his fire, spat Todoroki. I'll beat this villain with only my ice or nothing at all. Then you and your friends will die braver than most who face me, said the icy villain, only for Bakugo to blast him, knocking the thug into the sand. Kirishima's body was then covered in red stone as he ran over and kicked the villain in the face, knocking him out. Was it really that hard? Monkey asked. Todoroki said nothing as he glared at the ape-like face in front of him, before freezing a large sand dune, shattering it. Everyone walked through and found themselves back near the courtyard. Down below, they could see Aizawa lying prone on the ground as the Nomu kept 1 foot on top of him. Shigaraki and Kurogiri were standing there, looking around for something before Shigaraki pointed to Kurogiri and said something. Looks like Smokey is getting dressed down, said Kyoka. Where's our friends? Asked Izuku. Look, said Momo, down there. She pointed to show Izuku and the others that Ochako, Siro, Shoji, and Fumikage tending to 13. Where are the others? Asked Todoroki. Just then, they heard a twig snap and jerked towards the sound, weapons drawn. There was Koda, nervously hiding among the rocks in his gray, camouflage uniform. Koda, sighed Tsuyu with relief, where's Mina? Koda gestured for them to follow him, and he led them to Mina, who was curled up behind a rock. Oh, thank the gods, she said quietly. Ida ran off to get help, but until he gets back, we're on our own. What about Aizawa-sensei? Asked Kirishima. That thing laid him out, said Mina. We're goners for sure now. Could one of my cannons take out the monster? Asked Momo. No way, said Mina. Ochako dropped multiple boulders on it without a scratch. The hand guy said he had a shock absorption quirk. Izuku looked back at the Nomu as Bakugo walked towards it. Bakugo, what are you doing? Asked Kyoka. To take care of that thing, said Bakugo. Once me and Shitty. Hair take it out, you guys can get out. That's a terrible plan, said Mina. You have a better one, Raccoon Eyes, snarled Bakugo. No? Then keep quiet. I'll do the heroic thing and stop them. He then stalked off. I've got a better idea, said Izuku. Remember how my gorilla form took a cannonball to the face? Yes, said everyone. Here's what we need to do, said Izuku, and he began to explain. As Bakugo slid down the hill, he saw the Nomu walk away from Aizawa and over to Shigaraki. I've taken the liberty of recalling the other troops back here, said Kurogiri. Should the heroes get here, we'll be more than ready for them. At least you're good for something around here, Kurogiri. Just then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Bakugo. One more to make an example of, said Shigaraki. Die! Screamed Bakugo as he rocketed forward, only for Tsuyu to knock him out of the way. She then kicked Shigaraki in the stomach. Before Kurogiri could attack, Shoji tossed a massive boulder at him. Kurogiri sent out a warp gate to send the boulder back, only for it to stop in midair. Ochako strained as her power held the boulder up long enough for Dark Shadow to send it flying into the Nomu. Shigaraki punched Tsuyu in the face before kicking her away. "Let's see how well they fight when I decay your pretty face," he said as he grabbed her, only for nothing to happen. He turned to see Aizawa, still alive and using his quirk on him. Cue song, "I Want My Tears Back" by Nightwish. Before he could attack, Shigaraki was distracted by a loud roar. He looked up and saw the green gorilla, howling with rage. "Nomu, take out the mini-boss," ordered Shigaraki as Tsuyu broke away. The green gorilla then charged toward the Nomu, running down the hill as he beat his chest. As the Nomu charged forward, the green gorilla stopped and Momo ran out, dual-wielding 2 4-barrel bazookas. She fired all 8 missiles at the Nomu, distracting it long enough for the green gorilla to punch it in the face. Todoroki then created a set of ice spikes as Mina threw acid onto the Nomu's arm, allowing the green gorilla to tear it off as he tossed the beast onto the spikes, impaling it. But then, the Nomu pulled itself off of the spikes and shoulder-slammed the green gorilla. It then reattached its arm with ease. "I thought its quirk was shock absorption," said Mineta. "I didn't say it was its only quirk," laughed Shigaraki. The green gorilla grabbed a piece of steel scaffold and slammed it onto the Nomu's back before kicking it in the face. Kirishima then leaped onto its back, slamming his rocky fists into the beast as Siro tied its legs with tape. At that moment, the other villains arrived and attacked. A villain with a tail kicked Tsuyu before punching Kyoka in the face. Ochako ran in and used her quirk to send volleys of rocks flying at him, only for the villain to use his tail to shatter the stones before using his kung fu kicks to knock Ochako back. He punched her in the face as the Nomu tossed Kirishima into Siro. Suddenly, Shoji leaped over and kicked the tail villain in the face, before then attacking 2 villains in hockey masks. Mina threw globs of acid at the Nomu, hoping to slow it down. Then, the green gorilla put the Nomu in a chokehold, holding the thrashing beast back. The Nomu threw the green gorilla over its shoulder before getting hit by Dark Shadow. The Nomu then pulled Dark Shadow in before punching Fumigage, knocking them both out. But then, Momo hit the Nomu in the eye with a shuriken, allowing Shoji to toss a fat villain into it. The Nomu knocked the villain aside, leading him to fly into Shigaraki's hands, which turned the fat villain's body into a shower of dust and blood. "Nomu," said Shigaraki, "forget the grunts. Get the mini-boss." Momo then pulled out an M16 machine gun and fired at Shigaraki. The Nomu ran in and blocked the shots, only for Momo to throw several grenades at it. She then made a shield to block the Nomu's slamming fist, before grabbing one of the discarded bazookas and firing it point-blank into its face. The green gorilla then charged into it, punching it twice before tossing it into the last 3 villains, knocking them out. The Nomu then grabbed the green gorilla and tossed him into the concrete walls. Bakugo then ran in and fired off several explosions, but the Nomu was unfazed by his weak attacks. It slapped him aside as Momo chucked a spear at it. The beast pulled the spear out of its chest and snapped in 2 before charging, only to step into Mineta's trap. The creature's foot was caught in his sticky hairball, twisting its ankle. Momo, exhausted, made more ammo for the bazooka and fired, holding the beast off as Ida ran in. Then, the green gorilla ran in and leaped onto the Nomu, jamming a piece of thin metal into its brain, spraying blood onto his fur. The Nomu fell over, dead. Momo sighed with relief before collapsing. "You killed it," cried Shigaraki. "That's not fair. You've cheated. I'm going to kill you, you goddamned beaky." "No, you will not," said a voice, "because I am here." It was All Might. He slapped his hands together, creating a shock wave that knocked back the villains. "Get us out of here, Kurogiri," cried Shigaraki. The green gorilla snarled as purple smoke filled the air, covering Shigaraki and Kurogiri. He instantly grabbed Aizawa's capture cloth and used it like a whip, grabbing Shigaraki and pulling him out of the smoke. As he flew through the air, the green gorilla leaped up, and with a mighty roar, he slammed Shigaraki down onto his knee, snapping his spine like a twig. "Shigaraki!" cried Kurogyri. He tried to go after him, but then, Snipe appeared and began shooting at him. The green gorilla roared, challenging him to attack. "I'm sorry," said Kurogyri as he fled, leaving Shigaraki to scream in agony. Sensei won't be pleased, Kurogyri thought. A few moments later, everyone in class was brought outside of the USJ, safe and sound. Aoyama didn't seem any worse for wear, as he walked out smiling. "Hey, Aoyama," said Mina, "where were you during all that?" "In a secret place," he winked. "If you and I weren't so tired, I would absolutely beat him up," said Monkey. "Please don't," yawned Izuku as Ochako held onto his shoulder. Just then, Detective Tsukachi, a man wearing a tan trench coat and fedora, arrived. "Sir, is 13 going to be all right?" asked Ochako. "Aside from some scars, 13 is expected to make a full recovery," said Detective Tsukachi. "Same goes for your homeroom teacher. Your classmates, however, going to need a few days to recover, especially Kaminari and Yaoyorozu. I will let you know if anything changes there. Midoriya, come with me. All Might and I would like to speak with you." Izuku got up and tiredly walked after him. "There goes the manliest man who ever did man," said Kirishima. "Do you hear yourself, shitty hair?" asked Bakugo. They walked into a white tent, where All Might was waiting. "All Might, I'm sorry," said Izuku. "I lost control and I crippled that villain." "No one is faulting you for that," said All Might. "If those reports about his quirk are true, you may have actually stopped him from killing anyone else. I'm the one who is truly at fault. If I hadn't spent all day helping with minor issues, I could have been there sooner." "Yes, but Monkey and I could have handled the situation better," said Izuku. "Don't drag me into this," said Monkey. "The only thing you did was defend the other students," said All Might. "That man wouldn't have been as conflicted if he did what you did to someone like young Uraraka or young Azui. But that's not the point. Young Midoriya, my time is running out, and I need to transfer one for all to someone before I lose it entirely." "But Host Body and I have it covered," said Monkey as Izuku's face transformed. "That may be true," said Detective Tsukachi, "but in the event All Might forever loses his power, chaos will reign. Which means I need to transfer my power to a new symbol of peace," All Might explained. Izuku took a seat and a moment to think. "Do you have any candidates in mind?" he asked at last. "I have several on hand, including your classmates," said All Might. "I think I have just the person in mind," smiled Izuku. "She's strong, smart, and courageous. The absolute best person for the job." "Who is it?" asked Detective Tsukachi. "My classmate," said Izuku, "Momo Yaoyorozu." Elsewhere, in a dark pit, a misshapen man was blasting Kurogyri with lightning. "Do you realize the depths of your failure, Kurogyri?" the ogre asked. "Thanks to you, Tamura has been captured, and our forces have been culled." "I understand, Sensei," groaned Kurogyri as he picked himself up. "I wanted to save Shigaraki. Truly I did. But All Might and the ape were too powerful for me to take on alone." The devil adjusted his tie before sitting down on his throne. The H's with tube and wires came down and he strapped himself into it, a loud hiss filling the air as oxygen was being pumped into his mask. "Yes, I can see how you would struggle against All Might and a giant gorilla," the ogre said. "For now, I look forward to seeing how you will lead the League of Villains while I plan to liberate Tamura from the pits of Tartarus." "How I will lead?" asked Kurogyri. "Did you think your punishment would be easy, Kurogyri?" the ogre asked. "I expect a great deal from you, now that you're the leader. The weight of my expectations is the worst burden I can bestow upon you, Kurogyri, so you had best not fail me again." "You have my word of honor, Sensei," said Kurogyri with a bow. "Go, Oboro," said All for One, "impress me." On the other side of the world, in the comfort of a warm bed with a glass of red wine, a figure tunes into the news. "A terrorist attack that left one dead and multiple injured," said the reporter on air. While the attack was unprecedented, the work of UA's Class 1A managed to prevent the villains from attacking anyone else in the city. Still no word on why the USJ was attacked. The figure paused on the grainy security footage of the green gorilla fighting the Nomu. They knew what was at work here. for an expert in the art of black witchcraft could recognize the spell at work. They looked to the side of the bed to find the object they needed. Time to speak with an old friend, the figure said. The planning stages. Momo awoke with a start early in the evening, finding herself still in the hospital. Where am I? She asked in a panic. Why am I? Calm down, Peaches, said the calming voice of Midnight. They sent you here to recover, remember? Midnight rubbed circles around her daughter's hand, hoping to ease her anxiety. Deep breaths, Momo, said Midnight. Just breathe. Momo started breathing slowly but then felt tears falling from her eyes. What's wrong, Peaches? Midnight. I wasn't strong enough, wept Momo. I let my friends get hurt, and it's my fault. Midnight simply wrapped her arms around her weeping daughter, pondering if what she was about to tell her would help. Earlier. Young Midoriya, that is an excellent choice, said All Might. We only need to broach the topic carefully with her parents. Shouldn't we be worried about keeping one for all a secret? Asked Izuku. Normally I'd say yes, said All Might. But after what happened when I helped you practice black witchcraft, I'd much rather not have my remaining internal organs rearranged again. Guess Mom did a number on him last time, said Monkey. Either way, we need to prepare ourselves in case she turns us down, said Izuku. Nizu has that part covered, said All Might, and if young Yaoyorozu does turn us down, we'll move on to the next candidate. No one is going to force anyone to take on this burden. Later on, All Might went back to the school to meet with Nizu and Midnight, and he explained what he and Izuku had come up with. Now all we need is your approval, Kiyama, said All Might. You'll understand if I'm somewhat reluctant, said Midnight, especially considering your failure to get to the USJ in time. Kiyama, I've already told Yagi off for his negligence, said Nizu. Rest assured, nothing like this will happen to the school again. What about the students? Asked All Might. We've increased security around the building, said Nizu, but as those changes will be covered in another meeting, I'd very much like to keep to the subject at hand. Let me be clear, said Midnight, I am not exactly enthralled with this idea, especially since I know you're both holding back on some information. As such, I want to be the one to introduce the idea to Momo. If anything bad happens, as her mother, I demand to be the first to know. You have my word, Kiyama, said All Might. The choice now rests on both you and your daughter's shoulders. Now, you know, said Midnight as she rubbed circles on her daughter's back. All Might actually thinks you were the strongest person helping out at the USJ, and Midoriya told me himself that you were outsmarting all of those villains at every turn. But I should have done better, said Momo. I should have come up with something to keep Kaminari from frying his brain, or getting Bakugo under control, or… There's no need to dwell on such things, said Midnight. What happened happened and we can't change that. Although, All Might did say he had something that might be able to help you. Really? Asked a confused Momo. Yes, said Midnight. In fact, he and Midoriya are on their way right now. At that moment, All Might and Izuku entered the hospital room. Good to see you're all right, young Yaoyorozu, said All Might. I'll leave you three to it, said Midnight as she left the room. Well, now that we have that out of the way, said Monkey, Yamamo, how would you like to be allowed to have All Might's strength? How is that possible? Asked Momo. My quirk is a rare one, said All Might. It was passed on to me by my master. But that's impossible, said Momo. No other quirk in history behaves like that. True, said All Might. Allow me to explain. It begins with a tale of two brothers, one good and the other evil. Momo's head spun as All Might finished the tale of One for All's creation. Izuku handed her a bottle of tea. It's not a lot to take in, said Izuku. Yes, to say the least, said Momo. But why me? What have done to deserve having this power? Yamamo, you ran straight at a giant monster dual-wielding bazookas, said Izuku. You're one of the bravest people I know. Strength and courage aren't the only worthy qualities about you, young Yaoyorozu, said All Might. Your intellect and leadership abilities, coupled with your compassion for your fellow students, have made the choice of my other successor obvious. But why not have Midoriya take on One for All? Asked Momo. Host body having me and using my strength to transform his body into mine makes One for All redundant, said Monkey. But surely Midoriya would be better #1 hero material, wouldn't he? Said Momo. Who said anything about me being #1? Asked Izuku. You deserve that title more than me. Do I? Asked Momo. Absolutely, said Izuku. He's right, young Yaoyorozu, said All Might. One for All didn't make me the #1 hero. It merely added to what was already there. However, there are downsides. To emphasize, All Might shrunk down to his true form, a skeletal man with long, blonde hair and sunken eyes. It can't heal my wounds, he said, and if you take this power, there will be no shortage of people who will attack you for it, hero and villain alike. I cannot, in good conscience, give you my power without warning you of the risks. If you refuse, I understand. Momo sat up in the hospital bed and thought about it. I'm not the one, she thought. I should say no. I really should. But what if what Midoriya said is true? If he's right, I can escape Mother's shadow. I can be truly happy again. I accept, said Momo. Good, said All Might. Now eat this. He plucked a single strand of hair from his head and handed it to Momo. I know it's gross, but this is the only way for your body to get used to One for All's power, said All Might. Momo sighed before swallowing the hair, almost gagging as soon as she was done. Here, said Izuku as he handed her another bottle of tea. Thank you for everything, said Momo. I won't let your faith in me go to waste. As soon as those words passed her lips, Momo felt the sparks of One for All begin to burn within her soul. Meanwhile, Kurojairi had been busy after his meeting with the devil himself. He stormed into the labs, where Dr. Garaki, an old man with white hair wrapped around the back of his bald head and dark goggles, was waiting. Did you enjoy the Nomu, Master Kurojairi? He asked. Kurojairi made a portal beneath his feet, then made another portal that threw Dr. Garaki into a wall. Your Nomu was a failure, snarled Kurojairi, and because of that, Shigaraki was captured with ease. You'll forgive me if I believe you're no longer of any use to me. You wouldn't kill me, spat Dr. Garaki. All for One still needs me. Then you can tend to Sensei's medical needs, said Kurojairi. Consider your Nomu project cancelled. I already have someone ready with a replacement. Who? Asked Dr. Garaki. The elevator dinged at that moment. I believe that is him, said Kurojairi as the doors opened to reveal another scientist with long white hair, a white goatee that matched Dr. Garaki's mustache, a red, cybernetic eye, and a metal left arm. Pleased to see that you've arrived safely, Dr. Merlot, said Kurojairi. The pleasure is all mine, said Dr. Merlot. I took the liberty of overseeing the Nomus still in service. They look as if a child designed them. He might as well be one, snorted Kurojairi as Dr. Garaki stormed out of the lab. Exposed brains are a weakness we can't afford. Indeed, said Dr. Merlot. If I may, I'd like to show what I have brought with me. Dr. Merlot cleared a table and laid down his briefcase. He opened it to reveal several photos of hideous hybrids to his smoky master. Are these the creatures of Grimm you promised? Kurojairi asked. Indeed they are, said Dr. Merlot. If what you have said about a gorilla quirk is true, these models should suffice. Good, said Kurojairi. Arrange a test. I want to see how your Nevermore model does against the winged Nomu. As you wish, Kurojairi, said Dr. Merlot. Kurojairi looked through the other photos, seeing pictures of Beowulfs, Ursa, Deathstalkers, and Lancers. These are most impressive, said Kurojairi, but chose your models wisely. As leader of the League of Villains, I will hold you personally responsible for their failures. I would expect nothing less from you, said Dr. Merlot as Kurojairi left the lab. The next day, Momo had decided to test a little bit of her newfound strength. Although her mother and All Might made it clear not to do the more strenuous exercises without Recovery Girl present, Momo could help but be excited to try the power bestowed upon her. She picked up a small stone and squeezed, practically turning the stone to dust. Momo then sent out a light punch that sent minor shockwaves through the small, garden pond. Midnight saw this with a small smile. Remember, Peaches, be careful, she reminded. It's just the small stuff now, Mother, said Momo. That's fine, but just try doing your normal exercise until school starts again on Monday, said Midnight. Momo smiled, feeling the flames of one for all being stoked within her. She went back up to the patio to look over the notes Midoriya had made for her. Unlike the other notes she saw him making, these ones only had the basics for security reasons. However, what little Momo did have to go off on was incredible. The small ways she could increase her strength would go a long way to helping prove that All Might had chosen well. Elsewhere, Kurogiri returned to the lair of the League of Villains, followed by the Black Ice villain and the Tail villain. Were those the only ones that could be recovered? Dr. Garaki asked. It took a while to find the transport to Tartarus, said Kurogiri. Luckily, my hunch was indeed correct about them transferring the weaker villains last. Hurtful, muttered the Tail villain. Quiet, Ojiro, said Kurogiri. I can always send you back. Ojiro wisely kept silent. If I may, Kurogiri, said the Black Ice villain, perhaps we should lay low until the school of false heroes is caught unawares. Impossible, said Kurogiri. You should know, Kane, that they will be on to us now. No, we'll bide our time before the next attack. At that moment, Dr. Merlot appeared. If you gentlemen are in the mood for some entertainment, he said, I've got just the thing. I'll pour some drinks for that, said Kurogiri. After the drinks had been served, everyone went to the arena, where a monstrous, bird-like beast with red markings and a skull-like head thrashed inside of its cage. How do you expect that thing to not escape? Asked Ojiro. It has no reason to, said Dr. Merlot. The Nevermore obeys all commands given to it. Case in point. Another cage, this one containing a Nomu with bat-like wings, yellowish-gray skin and long, thin arms, was wheeled into the arena. Fight, ordered Dr. Merlot. The cages opened and the Nomu surged forward, trying to slash the Nevermore with its claws. But the Nevermore knocked the beast away with its tail before slashing at it with the two claws on its wings. The Nomu punched the bird-like monster before tossing it into the arena wall. But then, the Nevermore took flight and with the flap of its wings, sent several feathers that impaled the Nomu's arms, legs, and wings. Then, the Nevermore struck the Nomu in its exposed brain, killing it instantly. The Nevermore shrieked in victory before feasting on its fallen rival. An impressive feat of bioengineering to be sure, said Kurogiri. Were Shigaraki here, he'd declare that your Nomu didn't level grind. The other villains gave Kurogiri some funny looks. I know what video games are, snarled Kurogiri. Garaki, get that worthless trash out of my sight. Dr. Garaki grumbled to himself as he stalked off to get the tools needed to drag away the dead Nomu. Used his own nephew for this failed experiment and still failed, said Kurogiri, ignoring the shocked looks from both Ojiro and Kane. Now then, the false heroes. I take it you two are fans of the hero killer. Indeed, said Kane, we hope to spread his ideals further. Honestly, I don't understand why he doesn't start a podcast like the rest of us. Thank you both for your input, said Kurogiri. I have just the plan to convert the hero killer to our side. The next day, Principal Nizu gathered all the teachers into his office for an emergency meeting. Aizawa was there too, wrapped head to toe in bandages. Hey, who invited Mamare, the ever-living? Asked Ectoplasm. Hardy har har, groaned Aizawa. Why are you here anyway? Asked Present Mike. Shouldn't you still be in the hospital? I got out early, said Aizawa. If I didn't have to put up with ridiculous requests for new hero costumes, I'd be happier. Such things will have to wait, said Nizu. There's still the problem of the upcoming sports festival. Cancel it, said Midnight bluntly. The kids have been through enough as is. Having them participate in that will only put targets on their backs from the other hero classes and Gen Ed track. That's something they'll have to deal with, said Aizawa. Heroics is a competitive field. If some of them aren't cut out to handle pressure, they shouldn't be there. I wouldn't say that, but he's right, Namuri, said Vlad King. Then you should be prepared for when these start pouring in, said Midnight. She placed a paper on the table in front of Nizu. What's this? He asked. A request to pull my daughter out of UA, said Midnight. You'll notice some errors that make the request invalid, all of which can be easily mended. This is the hypothetical possibility that you'll have to face eventually, Principal Nizu, especially seeing how Kaminari is still in the hospital. I wonder what his parents would think if he was to be put in the sports festival after being healed. Quit being sentimental, said Aizawa. The sports festival is one of the few ways this school even stays in business. So the grants donated by my husband mean nothing? Asked Midnight, barely containing her anger. Guess that means the school will survive without the 60% of its income generated by him. I'll be sure to let him know of that before the sports festival. Cool it, both of you, said Vlad King. This argument is going nowhere. Indeed, said Nizu. As much as I agree with Kiyama, the school board and HPSC want the sports festival to continue. So how do you plan to deal with the parents? Asked Ectoplasm. Yes, and how will we protect the students when their weaknesses will be shown on live TV? Asked All Might. I'm glad you both asked, said Nizu. The sports festival is in 2 weeks' time. Kiyama, in 3 days, I want you to help the students fix any flaws in the costumes. Add masks to all of them if you can. That way, it will be harder for the league to identify them. Finally, a good idea in this shit show, said Midnight. Vlad, contact as many of our compatriots as you can, said Nizu. We'll need to expand our security in case they try something like the USJ attack again. I'm already getting started, said Vlad King as he left the room. What about the students themselves? Asked All Might. Shouldn't they be receiving help as well? I'm with him on this one, said Midnight. My door is always open, said Hound Dog. Make it mandatory for Hero Corps students to see you, said All Might. Already done, said Hound Dog. So that's it? Aizawa asked, glaring at All Might. He gives the word and it's law? Yes, said Nizu. Until Vice Principal Fulcrum gets back, All Might is my number 2 guy. Think about that at the next inter-school meeting. Until then, this meeting is adjourned. See you all on Monday. After everyone left, Nizu poured himself a cup of tea. You can come out now, said Nizu. I could smell you since you floated in. Out of the shadows stepped a young woman with blonde hair with green highlights wearing a blue cloak. What can I do for you, Dr. Cavendish? Asked Nizu. I believe you have something that belongs to me, said Dr. Cavendish. A book that was stolen from my tower. Here it is, said Nizu as he handed over the book. I suspect your investigation with Sir Night-Eye isn't going well. The fool sees only what he wishes, said Dr. Cavendish. He is unwilling to save lives when he thinks their deaths will help his investigation. He'll say my ability to see the future is flawed, and he tried having me barred from the Shai Hasaikai case. Sounds like Sir Night-Eye is being somewhat controlling of a situation out of his control, said Nizu. One can only imagine how there's now a hero stronger than All Might, said Dr. Cavendish, to say nothing of who he chose to bestow one for all upon. But it's Izuku Midoriya I want. What do you have in mind? Asked Nizu. Come the spring internships, smiled Dr. Cavendish. Izuku Midoriya will answer to the hand of fate. Lessons learned. Mina looked over to the empty desk of Kaminari. She hadn't heard anything about his situation since the USJ attack, and it was beginning to eat at her mind. You doing okay, Mina? Asked Kirishima. I'm worried about Kaminari, said Mina. Me too, said Kirishima. I have a good feeling Jamming Ye is going to be fine, said Kyoka. He's stronger than we give him credit for. True, though he needs to find a way to keep his brain from getting fried, said Shoji. Peach, as if he could be stronger than me, snorted Bakugo. Maybe he deserved what happened. Everyone glared at Bakugo, but before anyone could cuss him out, a mummy appeared. Hey, look, host body, it's Mummy the Ever-Living, said Monkey. No, it's still Aizawa-sensei, thought Izuku. Quiet, all of you, said Aizawa. If you thought you had the worst of it at the USJ, you're wrong. Your greatest challenge is almost upon you. All of the students, even Bakugo, shuddered. The sports festival is coming up soon, said Aizawa. This event will either make or break your careers as heroes. So don't fail. With that, Aizawa haphazardly zipped up his yellow sleeping bag and went to sleep as the bell rang. Heh, lazy but beach, said Monkey. I won't even dignify that with a response, said Izuku. Out of the way, extras, Bakugo screamed as a crowd formed around Class 1A. Bakugo, that is no way to talk to your fellow classmates, Ida exclaimed as he chopped his arm robotically. Better let me do the talking from here, said Monkey as Izuku's face transformed. Knowing Bakugo, things could get ugly. I'll be here if you need me, thought Izuku. Is everyone in the hero course this arrogant? Asked a voice belonging to a kid with lilac hair, bags under his tired eyes, and pale skin. No, it's just him, said Monkey. Some of us would just like to get to our next class. I would have thought the class with the most media attention would be better than you lot, said the tired boy. Some of us couldn't make the cut at the entrance exams, so we're stuck with general education. But if we make a good showing at the sports festival, one of you will have to leave the hero course to make room for one of us. Consider this a declaration of war. Monkey looked less than impressed as he leaned forward. Listen, oh, what's your name? Asked Monkey. Hitoshi Shinso. Listen, Shinso? You have the right mindset, but you just declared war on 18 students who could bench press a bus. Hell, host body could drag 2 refrigerators with only his 2 arms. Well, we can't all be blessed with strong quirks, said Shinso. You're absolutely right, said Monkey, so it makes it more impressive that he aced the exam without my help once. Shinso went pale. What? It's true, said Izuku as his face turned back. Didn't use my strength until the last moment. Just who are you? Asked Shinso. I'm Izuku Midoriya, said Izuku. That other guy talking was Monkey, my brother, and we're running late. Just then, a boy with silver hair and sharp teeth ran in. Hey punks, he shouted, I'm from Class 1B. I wanted to see what you're made of, but all I see are a loudmouth JRK and a couple of cowards following him. Don't go thinking you're better than us just because you fought some punk villains. Shut up, screamed Mina, fury evident in her eyes. Kaminari is in the hospital because of them, UBSD. Everyone turned their attention to Midnight, who had seen everything. She pointed her whip at the boy with silver hair. Ashido, get the rest of your class in my office, calmly, she said, not taking her eyes off of the 1B student or Shinso. Mina glared at both of them as the class moved on. You too, Midnight snarled. What possessed you to confront them like that? Well, they're taking attention away from our class, said the boy with silver hair. Tetsu, you and Shinso have no right to be taking your anger out on the victims of a terrorist attack, Midnight said, clutching her whip and tightening it in her grasp. Your lucky Kaminari is only in the hospital at the moment. If he had died. Tetsu looked to the floor in shame. And you, said Midnight as she turned her glare to Shinso. Having your class mob them and insulting them are actions unworthy of the hero course. Actions like yours will make it difficult, if not impossible, to join the hero course, especially on my watch. But, objected Tetsu, only to be silenced by Midnight's glare. You both disgust me, Midnight said. Both of you are serving detention with me after school. Be lucky I'm not having you disqualified from the sports festival entirely. Yes, ma'am, said Shinso and Tetsu sheepishly. Now get to class, before I decide you boys need to be punished further, said Midnight, tightening her whip. The remaining students scurried away. Mina was sulking, said beyond belief at Tetsu's words from earlier. She shook with rage as she took a seat, struggling to fight back hurt tears. Izuku crouched down next to her. You okay? He asked. Fine, said Mina as she put her head on the desk. I shouldn't say it. I really shouldn't. But? Asked Izuku. But I just want to melt every one of those bullies, said Mina, finally letting the tears roll down her face. Kaminari could be dead and they wouldn't even care. Before she could start sobbing, Mina felt Izuku wrap his arms around her in a big hug. Just then Midnight entered the classroom. To your seat, Midoriya, she said gently. If anyone here is still upset over what happened, Hound Dog has said his door is always open. Of course, given seeing him is required of everyone here, it would have to be. Momo sighed as she planted her face on the desk. Midnight chuckled before pulling out an overhead projector. Anyway, today we'll be going over your costumes and how we can improve the safety of them, said Midnight. Should your costumes not be up to snuff, we'll see the support department. Let's get this show started. Hagakure's costume was first. Just gloves and boots? Asked Midnight. Wouldn't you want something more warm and satisfying? I tried asking Aizawa-sensei about DNA-encoded outfits, But he said it was a waste of time and would take the entire school year to make, said Hagakure. Now that is some bullshit, said Midnight. Power Loader can whip up something like what Togata uses in a day or two. I'll personally cover any expenses for all of you if you so need it. That's a promise. She handed a note to Hagakure before continuing. Azui, your outfit is aesthetically perfect for the water missions you'll no doubt take on, she said. Just be sure to add Kevlar layers around the heart and arteries. Will do, said Tsu. Midnight looked over Kirishima's outfit. I don't care how manly it is, you need to add a Kevlar vest to your costume, Kirishima, Midnight said sternly before turning to Mineta. You look like you're wearing a diaper, and your reason for it is weak. Heroes suffer groin attacks all the time, and unless you get kicked by a steel boot, I'm certain no permanent damage will be sustained. But it also makes me look more appealing to the ladies, said Mineta. It really doesn't, said Kyoka. Funny enough, Kyoka, said Midnight as she changed the slide, I can't help but notice that your hero costume is just street clothes. Not a lot to emphasize, said Kyoka. Fair enough, said Midnight, not much to add aside from some minor armor plating and other sound equipment. Midnight then changed the slide to Mina's costume. Interesting color palette, said Midnight. It'll have the baddies seeing stars when you show up. But the neckline is too low. Add some straps and any support gear you deem necessary. Yes, ma'am, said Mina. The slide changed to Izuku's costume. You can skip this one, said Izuku. Monkey and I are already drafting ideas for the new one. Proactive as always, Midoriya, said Midnight as she changed slides to Momo's costume. Could be better. I've tried making it with my quirk in mind, said Momo. You and I both know DNA-encoded outfits have failed me in the past. Too true, said Midnight, but there's still room for improvement. Midoriya, close your eyes for this part. Izuku covered his eyes with his hands as Midnight changed slides to Momo's belt and a photo of the green gorilla slamming Shigaraki onto his knee. Given the design for your bookshelf belt, this is what could happen if you fall on your back, said Midnight as she pointed to the green gorilla's photo. I'd change it to a sack to carry the book around. Also lose the heels. That goes triple for every girl in class. Ochako was about to point out how Midnight was wearing heels with her hero costume but was instantly silenced by one sharp look from her teacher. Any other ways I could improve the costume? Momo asked. Have you tried using zippers? Asked Izuku. With zippers, you could cover up the use of your power before using whatever you created. In addition, a back flap could help you make bigger things without sorry, I was mumbling again. No, go on, said Midnight. Yaoyorozu could use insight like that more often. Indeed, Momo had jotted down the ideas already mentioned in a journal. Yeah, right, said Bakugo. Creepy Deku couldn't think of anything useful like that. Funny you should say that, Bakugo, said Midnight. Let's talk about this abomination of a costume. She put on the slide featuring Bakugo's outfit. What's wrong with it? Bakugo huffed. What's right with it? Asked Midnight. These things on the sides of your head only give an enemy something to grab onto before giving you a knee to the face. That's without getting into these gauntlets. Anything with the firing capacity of these things needs to be kept out of student hands. Honestly, it makes Lady Nagant look positively fashionable. Bakugo snarled, earning only a chuckle from Midnight. Bakugo wasn't fooled in the slightest. He could feel the disgust ripple through the room. No doubt she had heard what happened during the battle trial. Just then the bell rang. That's enough for today, said Midnight. Don't forget to see Power Loader after you're done with Hound Dog. Bakugo grumbled to himself as Izuku chatted with Momo. As he was about to enter Hound Dog's office, he felt a hand on his shoulder. Not this one, Hound Dog, said Aizawa. I wish to speak to him first. Sure thing, Aizawa, said Hound Dog as he ushered Hagakure into his office. When the two of them were alone, Aizawa turned his eyes down on Bakugo. Why do you want to be a hero, Bakugo? Asked Aizawa. I want to be the best there is, even better than All Might, said Bakugo. How's that working out? Asked Aizawa. It's goddamn awful, that's how it's working out, said Bakugo. Deku has been upstaging me at every turn. I know how you feel, said Aizawa. Midoriya took the glory I deserved for slaying that beast. But I think I have a way to, as you say, put him in his place. That is, if you're interested. Tell me, said Bakugo. Win the sports festival, said Aizawa. Do that, and all the country will speak of as you. You'll have money, fame, even women if that's what you want. Hell yeah, I'm going to win that sheet, said Bakugo with a smile. Aizawa chuckled as he left, only to find Midnight waiting for him in the teacher's lounge. What the hell are you thinking, Aizawa? She asked. Bakugo needs to learn to work with others, said Aizawa. Should he win the sports festival, he may be more receptive to outside help, given the teamwork aspect of the second quarter. And should he lose? Asked Nizu. Then he'll learn the hard way that no man is an island, said Aizawa. It's a dangerous thing to put such ideas in the heads of young men with such grand delusions as Bakugo's, said Nizu. On a semi-related note, said Present Mike. He said yes. Perfect, said Nizu. Have him meet with All Might as soon as possible. Who's coming? Asked Aizawa. Wafter. Your expulsion stunt last year, you're still under court order to not commentate on the sports festival, said Midnight. Look at it as no big loss. You always did hate working up there. Aizawa glared but said nothing as he saw his moment of glory slip through his bandaged fingers. Elsewhere at lunch, Ochako was feeling very excited. Izuku, let's crush the sports festival, she cried. Sounds good to me, said Izuku. If either one of us wins, we could in turn with some of the best heroes in the business. Quite right, said Momo. I, in particular, want to see if I can get the new costume ready before then. She held up a preliminary sketch of her new costume, a red leather jacket and dark pants with rectangular holes on the sides of her thighs and calves. Mirko herself would be jealous, said Mina. Maybe she'll be there when we get on the podium. Plus ultra, said Izuku. Hell yeah, said Ochako. I'm one step closer to my ultimate goal. And what is that? Asked Momo. Ochako looked downcast as she averted her eyes. You guys promise not to look down on me for this? She asked. Uraraka, this is a judgment-free zone, said Mina. Obviously, we won't look down on you. I want to be a hero for the money, said Ochako timidly. That's new, said Monkey before Izuku shushed him. Why do you want the money? Asked Momo. To help my family, said Ochako. They've worked too hard not to enjoy themselves. They're losing jobs left and right in construction, and I just want to give back to them. A most noble goal, Uraraka, said Ida. How long have you been there? Mina asked. All day, said Ida with a shrug. What do you hope to do as a hero, Ida? Asked Momo. I just want to make my brother, Tensei, proud, said Ida. Anything else is to help out around the Idaitan offices. Wait, said Monkey as Izuku's face changed. Your brother is in Genium? Yes, said Ida. Okay, just checking, said Monkey as he crossed something off a list. Yamamoto, you still on for after-school training? I have already received mother's approval, said Momo. Perfect, said Izuku as his face changed back. Indeed, said Ida, a good training regime will improve our chances of winning. Then I guess I should get started, said Ochako. I'll train with you, said Mina. I have some ideas I want to try out. Just then the bell rang. We can discuss more of this tomorrow, said Momo. I'll see you all soon. With that, everyone took off, with Mina following Ochako. Sue, I couldn't help noticing the way you were looking at Midori, said Mina. I wasn't looking at him in any way, said Ochako defensively. Oh good, smiled Mina. Then you won't mind if I ask him out after the sports festival. Ochako stopped dead in her tracks, bloodshot eyes staring at Mina. I mean, you have to admit, he does give off a certain nervous charm, said Mina. But you can't ask him out, protested Ochako. I'm doing that myself. He saved my life, and I want to be by his side more than anything. But? Asked Mina as she wagged her eyebrows. But I don't want to ruin our friendship over it if it goes bad, said Ochako. Midori is a sweetheart, said Mina. He would absolutely understand. But how do I get him to notice me when he's surrounded by beauties like you and Yamamoto? Asked Ochako, who then realized what she had just said as she turned beet red and covered her mouth. Well now, smiled Mina, am I mistaken, or did that sound somewhat similar to you saying I'm pretty? Ochako was so embarrassed, she didn't realize that she used all of her fingers to activate her quirk until she floated up to the ceiling. Ectoplasm looked up and sighed. I'll get the ladder, he said. Later, after classes were finished, Tetsu and Shinso slumped into their desks, ready for the torture Midnight was going to put them through. Take notes, boys, said Midnight. You can pull out as soon as this is done. She put some statistics up on the whiteboard. What's the average death rate for heroes? She asked. Any answers? Shinso and Tetsu looked to each other, confused. It's not low, said Midnight. In fact, as many as 10% of heroes die in the field. At least 25% of that are as young as you and Class 1A. Now imagine you're in the shoes of the 90% that survive. Imagine you were there when they were in mortal danger and had the same attitudes from earlier today. Your assignment is a simple one. Tell me why you let them die. Began Tetsu, before being silenced by Midnight's glare. You're not just telling me, you're telling their families, said Midnight. Even heroes have parents. Tell them why their sons or daughters won't be coming home. Shinso opened his mouth but closed it as a blank look washed over him. Being a hero is not about getting money or attention, said Midnight. It's about being empathetic. Since you were anything but empathetic, you have no business calling yourselves heroes. Isn't that a little? No, Tetsu. I nearly had to see my only child die. You don't get to ask me that. Both of you, research hero mortality rates and deliver a 5-page essay on them to my desk before the sports festival. Yes, ma'am, said Shinso and Tetsu. Q Song, A Million Miles Away from Belle, 2021. After school, Midnight sulked her way home. Momo had told her earlier that she would be late for dinner that night on account of training with Midoriya, so she had time to process. Midnight got into the shower, ignoring the thumping in her chest as she began to really think about what happened at the UA. She threw a towel on and looked around her bedroom, staring aimlessly at photos of her family, especially one of her and a 5-year-old Momo. Midnight traced her fingertips over Momo's smiling face, joy overflowing as she held up a Matryoshka doll she had just created. Reality settled into Midnight as she thought about how her shining light, her peaches, was narrowly snuffed out. Midnight dropped the photo, trying to hold in her emotions as she fell face first onto her bed. But intrusive thoughts of Momo asleep in a hospital, barely clinging to life, broke through. When Ishiro arrived home, he found Midnight weeping. As soon as she realized he was there, Midnight embraced him and said, I don't want to lose my baby. A sporting good time. Over on Dagoba Beach, Momo leaped out of the green gorilla's slamming fists. She then made a massive mallet and whacked the beast across the face before using it to knock him back with a hit to the chin. Before Momo could use the mallet. Again, the green gorilla knocked the head off with the back of his hand before using a palm strike to send Momo flying back. She tumbled a bit before landing on her feet and using the momentum built up to launch herself forward and kick the green gorilla. The beast flew back, just barely avoiding falling into the water before Momo surged forward. The green gorilla grabbed her in midair and slammed her onto the sand. But then, Momo's eyes were wreathed in crimson flames as she pushed the green gorilla back. Then she threw a mighty punch, forcing the green gorilla to block the sand that was hitting him. Momo tried to punch again but cried out in pain. The green gorilla turned back into Izuku as All Might ran over to look over Momo's arm. Yamamo, are you okay? He asked. I'm fine really, said Momo, but All Might shook his head. It's no good, he said. You've sprained your arm, young Yaoyorozu. At least you didn't break it. How could that happen? Momo asked, nursing her arm. I'm not sure, said All Might. Any insight, young Midoriya? Well, how do you use one for all? Asked Izuku. I channel it into my arm before throwing a punch, said Momo, who then slapped her forehead. Oh, I've been a fool. How? Asked Izuku. When All Might throws a punch, he uses his whole body, moving everything in sync with each other. Momo said, I should be spreading one for all out throughout my body, not channeling it into one piece of me at a time. Let's not do that just yet, said All Might. We're more or less done for now. I'll go get something for your arm, young Yaoyorozu. He walked off to his pickup truck when his phone rang. It was Detective Tsukachi, who sounded urgent over the line. Are you sure? All Might asked in a worried voice. Did you speak to his mother? Okay, I'll talk to him. When All Might got back to bandage Momo's arm, Izuku noticed the expression on his face. What's wrong? He asked. You know that villain you stopped at these, eh? Asked All Might. He wants to talk with you. Tartarus, a cold and dismal prison. The worst of the worst were held here, sometimes for a short while, other times an eternity. As Izuku and All Might walked through the unholy halls, they could feel the eyes of the prisoners following them. Just keep your eyes forward, young Midoriya, said All Might as they reached the interrogation room, a box-like structure that housed a single, white room with a steel table bolted to the floor. Behind that table sat Tamura Shigaraki, his white hair all frazzled. His cold, blue eyes stared intently as Izuku sat down in front of him. Player point 2, he growled. You wanted to see us? Asked Monkey as his face transformed. Indeed, said Shigaraki, you're a remarkable specimen. Player Sensei would absolutely go to ape shit seeing you in person. There a point to this? Asked Monkey. Bring the other guy back, said Shigaraki. He's the one I want. Izuku returned to normal, but his intense stare didn't waver. Kid, I've been hurt a lot in my life, said Shigaraki as he leaned forward as best he could. I was beaten by my father simply for wanting to be like you. Beaten simply for wanting to help others. Forced to endure cold, rainy nights in the shed. Believe me, I know pain. So what you did to me may have hurt like hell, but it is nothing compared to what you and everyone you love will endure when Sensei frees me. Just who is your sensei? Asked Izuku. Ask All Might, said Shigaraki. Everything that has happened and will happen all comes back to him. Ask where he was when a young boy, who saw his whole, awful family wither and die, who needed help and got nothing. Knowing him, he was probably training a protege relying on cheat codes like you. Cheat codes? Izuku asked. I saw it happen, said Shigaraki. Eraserhead was looking at you, but you stayed in your monkey skin. I want to know how you did it. How did you cheat? How? Just then, the door swung open and a man wearing a brown suit and yellow tie with his blue slicked back stepped in. Tamura Shigaraki, stop talking, the man said. You'll have to excuse me, Mr. Midoriya, but my client and I need to discuss the details for his court appearance. I was already leaving, said Izuku. May we meet again, player 2, said Shigaraki as Izuku left the interrogation room. His lawyer took a seat in front of him. Shigaraki briefly saw purple smoke emerge from the man's sleeve. How is Sensei getting me out, Kurojairi? He asked. At the moment he has appointed the role of leader to me in your absence, Kurojairi said as he pulled out some papers. From what little Dr. Merlot could uncover, it seems he wants you to remain here for the next while. At least until he finds a way to heal your body. Do you know of any quirks immune to erasure? Asked Shigaraki. None, that's why I avoided a direct conflict with my old friend, Aizawa, said Kurojairi. Whatever cheat that player 2 is using, I need it, said Shigaraki. Have no fear, said Kurojairi. As soon as I find out a way to recruit the hero killer's followers, we should be able to collect a DNA sample from the ape. Excellent, said Shigaraki. Does Sensei still plan to? It seems inevitable, said Kurojairi. However, I have contingencies in place should Sensei move forward. Thank you, Kurojairi, said Shigaraki. My loyalty lies only with you, said Kurojairi. Now, I have some other business here I need to attend to. Do what you must, said Shigaraki as he rang a bell. At once, 2 prison guards and a nurse came in with a wheelchair to return Shigaraki to his cell. As Kurojairi left the interrogation room, he passed by many cells holding the most evil and dangerous villains he ever knew. He kept walking until he stopped in front of the cell of a woman with purple hair, toned muscles, and a steel glare. Kana Tsutsumi, the beautiful Lady Nagant, said Kurojairi stoically. You lawyer types had your chance, said Lady Nagant. The HBC will never let me free. Why do you think my master asked me to retrieve you? Asked Kurojairi. You're a remarkable woman driven to despair by the very people you swore to protect. Why bother staying here? Who are you? Asked Lady Nagant as a purple portal opened up on the wall next to her. I am Kurojairi, and I need you to help me tear this system down. All Might looked over the file, his eyes not believing what they were seeing. "Is something wrong, All Might?" asked Izuku. All Might hesitated for a moment, then handed Izuku the file to look over. Tamura Shigaraki, alias Tenko Shimura. Subject's psychological issues possibly stem from abuse by one or both parents, in addition to an unexpected quirk awakening. Decay quirk possible for the state of recovered bodies of the Shimura family. Izuku looked up at All Might, who had tears in his eyes. "The beast he's tarnished her legacy," he wept. "Whose?" asked Monkey as Izuku's face changed. All Might wiped tears from his eyes before looking to his protege. "Monkey Izu," he said, "I have never told anyone this aside from Nizu. It should shed light on the situation as best it can. My master, Nana Shimura, was the holder of one for all before me. We were quite a pair, her and I. At some point, Nana had a son, but in order to protect him, she gave the boy up for adoption. No wonder he was so bitter about the idea of heroism," said Monkey. "Shigaraki's father's abuse must have warped his idea of it." "I should have been there," said All Might. "I could have." "What ifs and suppositions won't help us," said Monkey. "What my brother means," said Izuku as his face returned to normal, "is that there may have been nothing we could do. Evidently, it's too late for him now. It's harsh, but at least Shigaraki is in here, where he won't be able to hurt anyone else." "Well," said All Might, "I guess we can count our blessings there." The next day, Mina and Ochako began to spar in the gym. "You know," said Mina as she dodged a kick, "the sports festival may just be too tough for you." "What's that supposed to mean?" asked Ochako as she threw a punch, which Mina ducked under. "Come on, it's obvious," said Mina. "Midori likes big, strong ladies like Yamamo." Ochako froze with rage, allowing Mina to get in a few kicks. "I know he'd give me a chance," said Ochako. "Not if I ask him out first," said Mina. "Oh look, there he is now." Ochako then charged, only to slip on acid Mina threw down in front of her. Ochako used her quirk to stop in midair, only for Mina to kick her into the padded walls of the gym. Mina chuckled before she tried striding over to Izuku, only for Ochako to run up and grab her. Then, the gravity girl slammed Mina onto the ground. Mina wrapped her legs around Ochako's head and chucked her aside before leaping up. "What strength," she smiled. "But don't forget, there are guys like you all over the world." "Really, a fighting street joke?" Ochako groaned. "I knew a cutie like you would get the reference," squealed Mina. Ochako blushed, then dodged a charge from Mina. Mina ran up and kicked off the wall, forcing Ochako to block a flying punch. Ochako threw her own punch, only for Mina to grab her flying fist and pin it behind her back before forcing Ochako against the wall. "I win," said Mina happily. "How'd you get so good at this?" asked Ochako. "Lot of people used me as a punching bag," said Mina as she slowly let Ochako go. "I just made sure to hit back harder." Ochako shuddered. "Ah, come on Mina," said Kirishima. "What about that time you got those guys off my back by break-dancing?" "They didn't try punching me in the face," said Mina. Kirishima shrugged but conceded to the point. On the other side of the gym, Todoroki was flinging ice as fast as he could, only for Momo to block the attack with her shield and kick him in the shin. "When will you realize that using half of your power isn't enough?" asked Momo. "I am using all of my power," said Todoroki. "I'm just using his." "Whose?" Momo asked, only to find her leg frozen. Todoroki then punched her in the stomach, only to recoil in pain as his fist collided with steel. "You're not only cowardly, but you're also predictable," said Momo as she used the shield to break the ice. "When you feel like actually putting in the effort to be here, let me know." Todoroki scowled as Bakugo walked over. "Who does that beach think she is?" he snarled. "Ponytail should be happy to be here in the first Diamond place." "You don't speak for me," said Todoroki as he walked off. Midnight scowled as she looked over the note given to all UA faculty members. "Stupid board," she grumbled. "I wanted them safe. They want ratings no matter what." "Penny for your thoughts?" asked a voice. It was Vlad King, leaning against the lockers. "Does the school board realize what it's doing?" Midnight growled. "They're putting the kids in danger for money." "Well, all I know is that not a cent is actually going into the school," said Vlad King. What's Niza doing about it? Knowing him, he's going to break out the rack, the pendulum, and the Iron Maiden, said Midnight. But dealing with the school board is an arduous process. Worse, they weren't supposed to know about the mask idea until the day before. How'd they find out? Asked Vlad King. A file error, would you believe it? Said Midnight. Upside is that Nizu is beefing up security. A pro hero at every entrance and exit, HD cameras, automated weapons, standard stuff. I know how you feel about this situation, said Vlad King. If it was my students, I don't know what I'd do. That reminds me, said Midnight, Tetsu is still needed with me after school. Don't you think he learned his lesson by now? Asked Vlad King. Not yet, said Midnight. He'll grow stronger when I'm through with him, though. Just then, Recovery Girl walked in, followed by Kaminari. Welcome back, Kaminari, said Midnight cheerfully. How are you holding up? Much better now, smiled Kaminari. I heard the sports festival was coming up and got to training as soon as I recovered. Well, just make sure you don't burn out too soon, said Recovery Girl. Honestly, the school board should be ashamed for letting them go on national TV. Nothing we can do, unfortunately, said Vlad King. We'll focus on what we can do, namely keeping our students safe. I should go see my classmates, said Kaminari. Indeed, they were worried about you the last 2 days, Sonny, said Recovery Girl. As soon as Kaminari walked into the gym, he was hugged by Mina, Kyoka, Mineta, Siro, and Koda. Good to see you guys too, wheezed Kaminari happily. Later on, Momo and Izuku walked down the halls to meet up with the other class representatives. So, about the sports festival, said Izuku, how do you want to broach the topic with them? Let us hope they're more polite than that miscreant, Tetsu, said Momo. Please, said a red-haired girl, we're not all bad. I'm Itsuka Kendo, class representative of Class 1B. She gestured to a short, fat student with gray hair. That's Shoda, my vice representative, said Kendo as Shoda gave a short wave. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and this is Momo Yaoyorozu, said Izuku, and if my face changes to one vaguely ape-like, that's Monkey, my brother. Good to know, said Kendo. With that, the 4 representatives talked about their classes and their plans for the sports festival. One person you need to watch out for is Monoma, said Shoda. Guy has it in for your class. Thank you for the warning, said Momo. Don't mention it, said Kendo, though don't think we won't try to win as well. I've got no complaints, said Izuku. Let's just both do our best. Same here, said Kendo as she grew her fist to giant-sized before fist-bumping with Izuku. I can't wait to see how my Jeet Kune Do style does against your gorilla form. Jeet Kune Do? Like what Bruce Lee used? Asked Momo. Yep, said Kendo. Can't give away much more than that, though. Don't want you guys finding ways to counter my attacks. I hear you, said Izuku. But yeah, this was productive, smiled Kendo as she and Shoda began to walk off. We'll see you next week. See you around, smiled Izuku. As Momo and Izuku walked back to class, a thought occurred to them. She's trying to get us to let our guard down, said Monkey as Izuku's face changed. Yes, but she was at least polite enough to help us plan out strategies for the sports festival, said Momo, although we should probably find ways to counter any attacks she might use. I'm already going back to those old Bruce Lee DVDs, said Izuku as his face changed back. That's a good starting point, said Momo. But movies like that usually exaggerate the movements to make the fight seem more intense. If you would prefer, I could show how to use Jeet Kune Do correctly. How soon can you show me? Asked Izuku. Tonight, smiled Momo. Later on, the president of the HPSC, a woman in her mid-40s with aging, blonde hair, stared crossly into Lady Nagin's empty cell. How could this happen, Mara? She asked a man with shaggy, blonde hair and a blue suit with a yellow shirt. Electrical failure in the cameras was discovered before she went missing, said Mara. Camera 3 went back online after she left. We need to cover this up, said the president. The second the rat finds out, our whole organization is doomed. Too late, said Mara tiredly as he held up his phone, showing off a news article of the escape. Clean this sheet up, muttered the president as she left the prison. 2 weeks later, The students of UA put on their blue gym uniforms and went out to the stadium, where thousands of people were cheering and hollering in the stands. "Welcome back to the annual UA Sports Festival," said President Mike from his booth as announcer. "Today, the dynamic class of our great school will prove their worth and show the world true heroism." The crowd cheered as Class 1A stood in front of the pit of flames, determination seeping through into their spirits. "Now, before we begin the fun," said President Mike, "my usual companion has been banned from commentating for life as a result of the lawsuit last year." Aizawa snorted in the stands, only to then notice an Altesian dropship flying over. "So, without further hot-dogging and grandstanding," said President Mike, "please welcome the apprentice of Team RWI, leader of Team this, the one, the only, Thomas Azure." Cue song, Thomas the Tank Engine by Junior Campbell and Mike O'Donnell. At once, a youthful Arab man with long, black hair, a blue vest, white, baggy pants, a purple sash, and 2 scimitars leaped out of the dropship. He spun through the air before doing a perfect 3-point landing, with blue energy seeping up through his limbs and into his chest. The crowd went absolutely wild, as did Izuku. "Wow, it's really him," he said. "He can manipulate kinetic energy to defend and attack people. He's so cool." "Don't let All Might hear you say that," smirked Mina. Thank you," said Thomas. "Now let's start this sports festival with a bang. Off to the races." "As is tradition," said President Mike, "the student with the highest villain bot kill count will be the first to give a speech to commence the sports festival. Give it up for Katsuki Bakugo." Bakugo stepped up to the microphone and sneered at the audience. "I just want everyone to know that I'm going to win," he declared. "God, I hope not," muttered Thomas under his breath. "I guess with that, we're off to the events," said President Mike. "Okay, so here's how this is going to go," said Thomas. "Our referees, Midnight and Cementos, will spin a wheel for the first 2 events, and anyone still standing will be fighting tournament style in the arena. Did I read that right?" "Yes," said Midnight from below. "Our first event will be..." She spun the wheel, with everyone watching it go with bated breath. Tensions ran high, with no one's eyes leaving the wheel as it spun and spun. After what seemed like half an eternity, it stopped. "The obstacle course," said Midnight with the crack of her whip. "Ah, yes, the obstacle course," said Thomas as he looked through his notes, the challenge here being to go through at least 3 levels of increasingly difficult paths. "Did I read that right?" "You continue to read that right," said Midnight. Nito Minoma, a blonde student in 1B, looked to see Tetsu looking nervous. "You okay, Tetsu?" he asked. "Yeah, fine," said Tetsu between deep breaths. Minoma clapped his hands, gathering the attention of Class 1B. "Okay team, gather round," he said. "Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to hang back and watch those show-offs in 1A during the obstacle course. With any luck, we should learn enough about how they operate to beat them in the next 2 rounds. "Minoma, that's a terrible idea," said Shishida, a furry student with glasses. "Yeah, I have to agree," said Awaze, a student with a striped headband and black hair. "I think most of us already know how 1A works." "I have a cousin in 1A, said Setsuna Tokage, a girl with sharp teeth and dark green hair. "I've been asking my aunt about how she works all week." "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Minoma asked. "You didn't ask," smiled Setsuna. "We're wasting our time," said Kendo bluntly. "We'll keep up with them, but hold back just enough to know what they're doing. Any objections?" "You'll hear none from me," said Kamakiri, a mantis faunus with a light green mohawk. "Good," said Kendo. "Now let's get in gear." At the same time, Aizawa was forcing himself not to march up to Niza's office and punch him out. I mean, seriously? Thomas Azure, of all people, had taken his spot as announcer? He looked over to see Bakugo sulking away from the rest of his class. "Remember what I said 2 weeks ago," said Aizawa as he put a hand on Bakugo's shoulder. "If you win this, they will respect you. Hell, maybe they'll make you class representative like you deserve." "Yeah," smirked Bakugo. "After this, I'm finally getting what I deserve." "Attaboy," said Aizawa as he walked back to the stands. Bakugo smiled, but that smile turned to a scowl as Todoroki walked over to Izuku. "Midoriya," the scarred boy said, "your strength is formidable, but it will not help you. I will surpass you no matter the cost. Consider this my own declaration of war." "Jesus, what's everyone and declaring war on you, host body?" asked Monkey. "How should I know?" asked Izuku. "The guy only says a few words to me." "Watch, Mineta is going to declare war next." "Are you even listening?" Todoroki asked. "Yeah," said Izuku, "good luck. Break a leg and all that." Todoroki glared but was cut off by the announcement for all students to get ready for the obstacle course. Izuku walked over to Momo and stretched his arms in order to get ready for the inevitable race. "I see you at the finish line, Midoriya," smiled Momo as crimson flames danced out of her eyes. "Same here," said Izuku. "All right," called Present Mike, "on your marks, get set. Go." Everyone took off for the doors at once, only to crash into each other. "Huh, the bottleneck," said Thomas. "Never gets old, but how is everyone getting out of it? I can't move. I'm stuck. Mineta." At once, the large, furry arms of the green gorilla pushed everyone aside, forcing them against the walls. The beast looked at both sets of students staring up at him in awe, then grunted before charging down the path. "Still think we have a chance against that?" asked Tetsu as he chased after the other students. Monoma simply growled as he ran forward, with Shinso not far behind him. "Okay, first obstacle," said Thomas. "We like to call this one Robo Inferno. You'll see why in a bit." At once, the green gorilla dodged several lasers fired by white robots with T-shaped faces. The ape dispatched 3 of them with a single punch before leaping over a spider robot. Momo surged up and slammed through the spider robot, shattering it. "Wow, what a punch!" cried Present Mike. "You said it, Presentation Michael," concurred Thomas. Momo opened up the top of her gym uniform to pull out a bazooka from her stomach, which she then fired at another spider robot. Then she ducked out of the way as Todoroki fired waves of freezing ice at the other robots. Just then, 4 zero-pointers appeared, ready to attack. The green gorilla growled before charging forward and leaping up, punching one of the robots' heads right off. Momo followed, launching herself off the ground and through the chest of 1 zero-pointer. Just then, as she landed on the ground, Momo rolled out of the way of a large chunk of ice as a frozen zero-pointer crashed onto the ground behind her. Todoroki smirked as he slid on a slide of ice. Just then, he leaped out of the way of Bakugo, who used his explosions to fly past him. "You half and half be," he roared. "You declared war on the wrong person." "Next up, the tightrope," said Present Mike. "Can our heroes make it across the gap?" The green gorilla saw the chasm up ahead and took one mighty leap, landing on the other side with ease. "What a jump," said Thomas. "Guess now we have to wonder how the rest will catch up." Uraraka pressed her fingers together and floated over the chasm, with Momo following on a hang glider. Todoroki made a bridge with his ice and ran across, several students stampeding behind him. "Okay, what's next?" asked Thomas as he looked through his notes. "That, Thomas, would be the minefield," said Present Mike as the green gorilla skidded to a halt at a cliff overlooking a dry, sandy field with several mounds, under which sat landmines primed to explode at the slightest movement. Uraraka flew past him, with Momo running just behind her. But then, the green gorilla stopped Momo with his massive arm. "Looks like Midoriya just stopped Yaoyorozu," said Thomas. "What's he planning to do?" The green gorilla turned Momo around, revealing Mineta, clinging to her back with a drooling, leering expression on his face. Momo felt disgust flowing through her veins as the green gorilla glared at Mineta. With a flick of his finger, the green gorilla sent Mineta flying back to the starting line of the race before snorting and running off, with Momo running close behind. The green gorilla tore a piece of concrete out of the ground and tossed into the minefield, blowing up most of the landmines. The beast charged through the rest of the field, with Momo taking several flying leaps to avoid the blasts. The green gorilla raced past Ochako and slid down the hillside before leaping onto the ground. Momo and Todoroki were on either side of him, but the finish line was so close. The green gorilla then slid on his side and crossed the finish line first. What a finish, cried Thomas. Midoriya has been the first across the line, alongside Yaoyorozu, Todoroki, and hang on, let me see if I read that correctly, Bakugo. Looks like the other 36 students didn't do so bad either, said Present Mike. We'll be back right after this quick commercial break. In a faraway bar, Lady Nagant scoffed as Kurogyri poured another drink. I'm guessing he could be a problem, said Lady Nagant. Put it this way, said Kurogyri. I saw what the beast is capable of with my own eyes. You, my dear, wouldn't stand a chance in a straight fight. I could snipe him from a distance, Lady Nagant suggested. The beast is stronger than your bullets, said Kurogyri as Kane walked in. It took a while, but Jiren is ready to talk, he said. Watch the bar, said Kurogyri as he walked into a portal. I'll be back for the next round. As he stepped through the portal, Kurogyri saw a man with a fluffy scarf, purple suit, and yellow shades. Good to see you again, Kurogyri, said Jiren. Do you know where Stain is? Asked Kurogyri. Getting down to business I see, said Jiren as he flashed a gap-toothed smile. That particular client is on his way over. Said he needed to deal with a problem first. Another hero for the pile? Asked Kurogyri. Lunch, said Jiren. You can't expect his type to do his work on an empty stomach. Kurogyri made a portal under Jiren's feet, sending him falling toward the street before another portal shot him back onto the roof. I don't like my time being wasted, said Kurogyri. Just give it a bit, said Jiren as he dusted himself off. I gave him the location of the bar and told him about your sales pitch. Knowing him, he'll want to know more. Good, said Kurogyri as he clapped Jiren's shoulder. You truly are the best in the business. Someone has to be, said Jiren. Kurogyri checked his watch. Time is running short, he said. I have to check the bar. I'm sure you can see yourself out. With that, Kurogyri stepped back into the portal to his bar, leaving Jiren to find a way off the roof, unaware of a small, spider robot on his shoulder. I wasn't sure about cracking his connections, said Dr. Merlot as Kurogyri walked in, but this should be easy enough from what little you've provided me on his cybersecurity. Can you repair all of his destroyed files? Asked Kurogyri. Child's play, said Dr. Merlot. Lady Nagant snorted but had to admit that the idea of working with Dr. Merlot struck her as surreal. A few years ago, she would have put a bullet in his head, an idea that was starting to sound pretty good the more she heard him talk. Ojiro leaned beside her on the bar. Now, what is a nice girl like you doing running around with people like us? He asked. I was asked to shoot sheet, said Lady Nagant, not even looking at him. Anything else is just a nice bonus. Quiet, both of you, said Kurogyri. I wish to see which of these students will join our ranks. Will any want to? Asked Ojiro. Society has a way of dragging down exceptional individuals, said Kurogyri. We need only find the one most rejected by their peers. Bakugo was seething. 4th place, 1 less than 3. How did Deku do it? Bakugo snarled as he used an explosive punch on the wall, making a small crater around his fist. You okay, Baku bro? Kirishima asked. Do I look okay, shitty hair? Snarled Bakugo. So you got 4th place, said Kirishima. At least you didn't lose, right? Look at this way, you still have time to be number 1 inch. Bakugo hated to admit it, but Kirishima was right about that at least. Yeah, said Bakugo, just wait and see. I'll win this sheet yet. So I tell Emily that she stopped a giant globe and didn't technically save the world, said Thomas. Boy, she went off. Oh, hey folks. Welcome back to the sports festival. Looks like Midnight is about to spin the wheel for the second event. Midnight spun the wheel and as soon as it landed, she declared, the second event will be King of the Mountain. All right, I love this event, said Present Mike. Me too, said Thomas. For those of you just tuning in, the King of the Mountain event works like this. Headbands worth a certain amount of points will be distributed to the winners of the obstacle course. Several of the 42 students will form teams of 4 and try to take the headbands from the winners. The one who holds the one with the most points is the titular King of the Mountain, so naturally, I expect everyone to gun for him and his team. Now, if the King of the Mountain keeps his headband as well as takes the headbands of others, his team will advance to the third event. Should he lose his headband before the end of this exercise, his team will not advance. Sounds about right, said Monkey from within Izuku's head. Will the obstacle course winners step forward? Proclaimed Cementos. Izuku, Momo, Todoroki, and Bakugo stepped in. You will each be given a headband, said Midnight. Only after we're done here will the worth of them be revealed. Keep them on tight if you can. Momo suppressed a groan as Midnight passed out the headbands. Izuku's face changed into Monkey's as soon as she got over. If you two need to change, then whatever it is you're planning is fine, smiled Midnight. I know you both well. Perfect, said Monkey. Be honest, you're planning on having me wear that on our finger, aren't you? Asked Izuku from inside his mind. Read my mind, said Monkey as Midnight strutted onto the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, our champions thus far, she said, gesturing to Monkey, Todoroki, Momo, and Bakugo. With a headband worth 120 points, give it up for Bakugo. Tepid cheers poured out from the audience. Next up, with headbands worth 150,000 points and 9,000 points respectively, we have Shoto Todoroki and Momo Yaoyorozu. Louder cheers came from the audience. Finally, with nearly 10 million points to his name, Izuku Midoriya, proclaimed Midnight. Izuku chuckled nervously as the audience burst into loud cheers. That's not a good sign, but we should be good as long as we get some good people for our team, said Monkey from within Izuku's head. Mina saw the chance presented to her and nonchalantly pushed Ochako towards Izuku. Oh, Uraraka, are you joining me? Asked Izuku. Yes, sure, stuttered Ochako. Perfect, said Izuku, now we just need. But then a girl with pink dreadlocks leaped over. Let me join 10 million inch, she said. I have so many cool babies to show off. You brought babies into this? Asked Ochako. My inventions, said the girl. I am Mei Hatsum, future CEO of Hatsum Enterprises, and my babies are going to kill the competition. Good enough you're in, said Monkey as Izuku's face changed. Who else? Koda shuffled over, looking rather nervous. Izuku transformed into the green gorilla and began to converse with Koda in ape speak. Guess he's in, said Mei as Koda gave a thumbs up. It's hopeless, whined Monoma. There's no way we can beat Class 1A when they have that monster in their ranks. Good gravy, snorted Pony Tsunatori, a blonde gazelle faunus with long horns on her head. Oh, hush up you two, said Setsuna. If we use our brains, we'll beat Ken Allen over there. Who's Ken Allen? Asked Aways. He was an orangutan known for more zoo escapes than any other animal, said Setsuna. He was an orange, hairy guy with big hands. Remind you of anyone? Setsuna was then met with a karate chop to the head. OW, she cried. Serves you right, snarled Kendo, but Ken Allen was not a giant gorilla. If you ask me, the best way to beat him is to take enough of the other headbands to advance to the next round. I think I can help with that, said Shinso, but I'll need 3 of you to help me. Count me in, said Tetsu. Let's see, we have Team Momo, Team Bakugo, and Team Todoroki, said Mei, so we shall be Team Discovery Channel. Sounds good to me, said Midnight. I'll pass it along. Now get ready, it's almost time. Mei ran back to her team just as Cementos used his quirk to create a volcanic-looking environment, with Team Discovery Channel atop a mountain. Looks like Team Discovery Channel is ready for a royal rumble, said Thomas. But can the others climb the mountain and become champions themselves? Midoriya, Momo called, with Mina, Kyoka, and Shoji standing behind her. I will match your strength with my own, but let's try to stay friends, okay? The green gorilla gave a thumbs up. Okay teams, said Present Mike. On your marks, get set. Attack. With that, all of the teams charged up the mountain. Looks like we may be in trouble, said Ochako as a strange flapping sound filled the air. But at least we have reinforcements, smiled Mei as a murder of crows flew in. With that, Team Discovery Channel charged into battle. Cue song, Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra. Shinso goes bananas. Cue song, Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra. The crows flew at the other teams, forcing them to swat at the birds, only to be flipped over by the green gorilla. Where's a coat hanger when I need one? cried Mina as she threw globs of non-lethal acid at the birds, only to be knocked back by a net. Mei giggled as she fired nets at Siro and Tokoyami. "Come on, sheetheads, get your buttes in gear," Bakugo snarled as he fired at the green gorilla. Ochako blocked his shots with some floating boulders, which the green gorilla then tossed, knocking Monoma and Kamakiri back. Siro fired some tape, only for it to get caught in one of Mei's nets. The green gorilla twisted around and flipped over Shota and Setsuna, sending them flying back. The green gorilla then punched Dark Shadow in the face before flipping her over his shoulder. Just then, the beast dodged an explosion and looked to see Momo aiming a cannon at him. Ochako looked over and hurled a boulder at Shoji's tentacles, knocking them away as the green gorilla caught the cannonball in midair. "Duck!" cried Kyoka as she tackled Momo. The green gorilla then chucked a fastball, blowing the cannon up. The green gorilla gathered up Ochako and Mei, then climbed back up the mountain as Todoroki threw waves of ice at him. Just then, some of the crows flew at him, throwing off his aim. Shinso took his chance and snuck over to Todoroki's team, which consisted of Kaminari, Fumikage, who was recuperating from the beating dealt out by the green gorilla, and Toru. "Hey," said Shinso. "Yes," asked Kaminari and Toru. "Hand over your headbands," ordered Shinso. Without a word, both students handed them over. "Kaminari and Hagakure have handed over their headbands," said Present Mike. "Both are disqualified." Todoroki snarled, but was then kicked aside as Mei flew in on her hover boots. She then threw a grenade that expelled blue energy, knocking the other teams back. Said Shinso, and he ran off. He ran into Tetsu on the way. "I got the headbands from some of the other Gen Ed kids," he said. "You?" "Got mine from the invisible chick and the Pikachu guy," said Shinso. "I was going for Ice Boy, but then Inventor Dreadlocks attacked, and I have this thing called self-preservation." They ducked under as a cannonball flew over them. Just then, Bondo, a student with a head that looked like a giant glue cap with 8 holes in it, ran over. "I got the pink one, the tape one, and the plant 1-inch, he said. "Which one?" asked Tetsu. "The Gen Ed one, obviously," said Bondo as Shizuki used her vines to grapple with Shoji's tentacles. Koda's crows flew at more people, only for a disembodied hand to reach over and grab his headband. Said hand flew back to Setsuna, reattaching itself to the rest of her arm. Bondo was then knocked away by Shoji, losing his headband in the process. But then, Shoji lost his headband to Mei, who flew over on a jetpack. The green gorilla grunted as he picked up a massive boulder, using it to block Todoroki's ice attack. He nodded his head to Ochako, who then returned the boulder's gravity as the green gorilla gave it a toss. Todoroki tried to freeze it, but it didn't stop the boulder. With no other choice, Todoroki fired off a blast of flames, slicing the boulder in half. The green gorilla roared as he beat his chest, while Todoroki glared up at him. "Time's up," said Thomas. Team's Discovery Channel, Todoroki, Yaoyorozu, Bakugo, Shinso, and Kendo advanced to the third event. "Woo-hoo, we did it!" cried Mei. Koda dejectedly gave a thumbs up, only for the green gorilla to stomp over and grunt something. Koda's eyes went wide before he gave the green gorilla a smile and happily trotted off. "What did he say?" asked Mei. "Probably something inspirational," said Ochako. "You know how he is. He always has a way of lifting people up." "Sounds like you must like him a lot," said Mei. "Yeah, it does," said Mina, who had appeared next to Ochako. What?" asked Ochako. "No, it's nothing like that." "Sure looks like it to me," said Mei as she walked off. Just then, Mina and Ochako noticed Momo walk over to Izuku, who had changed back to human form. "Impressive work, Midoriya," said Momo. "Same here, Yaoyorozu," said Izuku with a smile. Mina and Ochako leaned in a little closer. "I'd beware of Todoroki for the time being," said Momo. "Ever since using his flames, he's been acting more hostile. I can just feel like he's going to try something rash as a result," said Izuku. "Do you think you could stop him if the chance comes?" Momo noticed Mina and Ochako listening, then smiled. "He'll be sorry if he tries anything," said Momo. "All that practice we did is already paying off." "Glad to hear it," said Izuku. "In fact, smirked Momo. I know a place to get dinner after a long day of training. Why don't you join me? Izuku froze. This is the part where you say yes, you dunce, said Monkey from inside his head. Yes sure, if that's what you'd like, stuttered Izuku. Perfect, said Momo. I'll see you soon. With that, they walked off. I can't believe Yamamo got to him first, sighed Ochako. I can't believe you two would eavesdrop on me, said a voice, making Mina and Ochako jump. What the hell, Yamamo? Cried Mina. First you move in on our man, then you jump scare us? Asked Ochako, with Momo raising one eyebrow. Mina turned a deep shade of lilac. Oh ho ho, who's the teasing little beach now? Asked Ochako. Hardy har har, sputtered Mina, so I like the guy. You all do too. Indeed, said Momo. No lies here, said Ochako. Obviously, we're all competing for the same guy here, said Mina. What do we do? I think it would be most prudent to let Midoriya choose between the three of us, said Momo, unless another solution can be reached. I'm out of the sports festival, said Mina. I'll have plenty of time to research. Well, we should probably get ready for the tournament rounds, Yamamo, said Ochako. Break a leg, fellas, said Mina. You've got this one in the bag. As Izuku walked down the hall, Todoroki stepped in front of him. We need to talk, he said, now. Sure, what do you wish to talk about? Asked Izuku. You, said Todoroki, you made me break my vow. Izuku looked confused. I swore to never use my flames, said Todoroki. You made me break my vow. You could have easily beaten us if you had used them sooner, said Izuku. Why didn't you? Before I answer that, I've noticed that your fighting style is similar to All Might's, said Todoroki. You're not the only one inspired by him. My father, Endeavor, was similarly inspired. However, he used different tactics. He wanted to surpass All Might, but knew he alone could never pull off such a feat, so he entered a quirk marriage with my mother, so that he may use the resulting child to surpass All Might. Todoroki but Izuku was cut off. The only memories I have of my mother are her crying, said Todoroki, his voice barely showing any sign of emotion. She despised my flames and one day, she poured boiling water on the left side of my face. Izuku went quiet at the revelation. That is why I must beat you, said Todoroki. I am going to show my father that I can be the #1 hero without his fire. It is the only way to disavow him. Izuku then sent a glare at Todoroki. Your ice only helped make the villain at the USJ stronger, he said. Your desire to disavow your father will only make villains like him stronger. Look, I'm sorry that all of that happened to you, but you can't use half of your power when people's lives are at stake. That's my declaration of war, Todoroki. With that he stormed off, leaving Todoroki dumbfounded. Thomas looked to his watch as soon as they went to commercial. Why are you checking the time? Asked Present Mike. I'm not, said Thomas. This is a portable radar. I know Nizu has the likes of MT Lady and Death Arms watching, but I never go into a situation underprepared. But enough about that. How are the brackets looking? So far, they seem all right, said Present Mike. Might need a little time to iron out any flaws. If I may, suggested Thomas, I think we can start off with the teams who lost the most players, Shinso and Todoroki, and work our way up. Right? Said Present Mike. I think for maximum drama, we should start off with Midoriya and Shinso's fight. Excellent, said Thomas. Now for the others, I think. Shinso wiped his mouth as he finished drinking from his water bottle. Excellent work back there, Shinso, said Tetsu. I don't think we would have gotten as far as we did without you. Thanks, but we lost half the team, said Shinso. It's no biggie, said Tetsu. We still have a chance to win. You don't sound so sure, said Shinso. Yeah, well, you know how midnight was, said Tetsu. Shinso shuddered at the thought. How come you're not nervous? Asked Tetsu. I pretty much have this one in the bag, said Shinso. A little taunting here, a little trash talk there, and whammo. Victory is ours. You think midnight would allow it? Asked Tetsu. She signed off on it when I brought it up 2 classes ago, explained Shinso. She's allowing it as long as I don't try anything funny. Funny, asked Tetsu, like haha funny or? Let's just say there's a reason I didn't lead with my quirk when we were forming teams, said Shinso. Probably for the best, said Tetsu. Not only would it have been unmanly, but if you got the wrong person like Tokige or Kurwaro. Both of them shuddered at the thought. Back in the bar, Lady Nagant, Kane, and Kurojuri sat in thought as Dr. Merlot worked on his laptop. We may need more people to deal with the ape, said Kane. No sheet, said Lady Nagant. The beast was hardly hurt from catching a flaming cannonball. I did warn you, said Kurojiri. Yes, you did, said Lady Nagant. Suppose one of my Grimm could take care of the beast, asked Dr. Merlot. What have you got? Asked Kurojiri. A Nevermore here, a King Taijutsu there, said Dr. Merlot. Should things get desperate, we could send in the final option. What's the final option? Asked Lady Nagant. A human Grimm hybrid, said Kurojiri, one based on the Knuckleave of Scottish folklore. Where do you get the human parts? Asked Lady Nagant. From live test subjects, said Dr. Merlot. Just a reminder that all for one isn't the worst that can happen to those who fail us. Kurojiri simply nodded in agreement. Out on the field, Midnight and Cementos were waiting for the reveal of the final fight brackets. They're taking forever, whined Midnight. It's been like 5 minutes, said Cementos. At least they got that Thomas Azure guy up there, instead of tall, dark, and dumb butt. No argument here, snorted Midnight. If I had known he'd do that, I would have had him barred from every school in the nation. Cementos noticed the way Midnight was gripping her whip and wisely said nothing. Just then, there was beeping from their radios. All right, final brackets are completed, said Present Mike. The screen behind you is already prepped, Midnight. Also, be advised, said Thomas. M-Lady is pigging out at every food stand. Might not be enough for the rest of us. Give me that, said Present Mike as some noise was made in the background of the call. Midnight and Cementos shared a look before the cameras began to roll. All right, we're back, said Thomas. Indeed, said Present Mike. We're just about to hear from Midnight about who's fighting who. A loud crack filled the air, and all eyes turned to Midnight, who had wrapped her whip around her shoulders as she strutted along the stage. If you're willing to indulge me, smiled Midnight, these good boys and pretty girls are who will be facing off against each other. She gestured behind her. Our champions of vigor shall be Izuku Midoriya versus Hitoshi Shinso. Shoto Todoroki versus Jiro Kyoka. Tetsu versus Ejiro Kirishima. Itsuka Kendo versus Setsuna Tokige. Momo Yaoyorozu versus Fumikage Tokoyami. Ibara Shiozaki versus Mei Hatsum. Reiko Yanagi versus Pony Tsunatori. Katsuki Bakugo versus Ochako Uraraka. Quite the display, I have to say, said Present Mike. But can they lay in some hay or make things out of clay? Asked Thomas. They may go down to lay by the bay. What do you say? Stop rhyming up there, said Midnight. I think Midnight is in a mood most foul, said Thomas. I hope she won't strangle us with a towel, said Present Mike. No more rhymes, I mean it, said Midnight. As Izuku was getting ready to go on stage, he felt invisible arms wrapping around him. Hagakure, what are doing? He asked. I have a secret to share with you, whispered Hagakure. Shinso has some kind of weird mind quirk. When we answered him, a haze grew around Kaminari and I. I think his quirk only works if you respond to him. Thank you for the warning, said Izuku. Also, said Hagakure as she squeezed Izuku a little tighter, word in the stadium says that it's not just Yamamo who has her eye for romance with you. Now you're just being ridiculous, scoffed Izuku. I'm as serious as a heart attack, said Hagakure. If you don't believe me, watch how Ishido, Uraraka, and Yamamo react to your fight. Okay, said Izuku, who was still skeptical. My man, said Monkey from within Izuku's mind, that's 3 girls who like you, one of which, I remind you, just asked you out. Remember, said Hagakure as she let go, don't respond. Don't respond. Don't respond. Izuku let those words flow through his head as he headed to the arena. In this corner, called Present Mike, We have the Sultan of Slam, a guy who knows just how much monkey the business needs, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku chuckled nervously as he heard the crowd cheer him on. In the other corner, said Thomas, we have the voice of terror, the Gen Ed kid you wouldn't want to meet on the battlefield, Hitoshi Shinso. Shinso then stepped up in front of Izuku, with Midnight standing between them. All right, boys, she said, I want a nice, clean fight. No dirty moves, no needless prolonging of fights, just you, your quirks, and your skills. Got it, said Izuku and Shinso. Begin, proclaimed Midnight with the crack of her whip. Izuku and Shinso circled around the ring, waiting for the other to strike. You know, said Shinso, I was always picked on for my villainous quirk. I was hated by all, especially by the kids with heroic potential like you. People like you have everything handed to you. Do you even know it's like to suffer? Shut up, snapped Izuku, only to feel a haze crawl over his mind. Too easy, smirked Shinso, walk outside the ring. Against his own will, Izuku walked toward the line. Shinso smiled, but lost his smirk when Izuku's face changed to an ape-like visage. The boy then ignored his order, walked right over, and kicked Shinso in the nuts. Thomas and present Mike winced in pain at the sight. How? Asked Shinso. I figured your oh-so-villainous quirk wouldn't work on a split personality, said Monkey. Oh, where are my manners? I'm his brother, Monkey. An impressive strategy by that system, said Thomas. System? Asked present Mike. That's what it's called when two independent personalities inhabit the same body, said Thomas. I just wonder what he plans to do next. At that moment, Monkey hoisted Shinso above his head and tossed him out of the ring. Midoriya wins, declared Midnight. Shinso laid on the ground, defeated. A shadow loomed over him and he looked to see Izuku extending a hand out to him. Let me help you up, he said. Shinso took the hand and was pulled up. If what you said is true, said Izuku, Vlad King should be able to help you out with that. He's always giving seminars on quirk discrimination. Thank you, said Shinso, but be warned. The rest of the sports festival won't be easy. Don't worry, said Izuku, my other half and I love a good challenge. Later on, as Shinso was walking back to the lockers, he was stopped by Midnight. Good job today, Shinso, she said with a smile. I have your example to thank, said Shinso with a bow. Even if you didn't make it here, I still think you have what it takes to be in the hero course, said Midnight. Even your trash talk was restrained. I suppose those lessons in detention stuck. Maybe a little too well, said Shinso. I think Tetsu is taking it a little harder than usual. Tell him if he needs to talk, Vlad King and I are always around to listen, said Midnight. If he doesn't get better, find either Nizu or Hound Dog. I will, said Shinso. For now, know that I'm proud that you've both learned your lessons, said Midnight, and I can't wait for the day you join the hero course. In spite of himself, Shinso smiled softly. Tournament trouble. After Izuku returned to the stands, it was Todoroki and Kyoka's turn. It was over before it could truly begin. As soon as Midnight began the match, Todoroki froze Kyoka instantly. She was in no condition to fight after that and weakly surrendered. That wasn't very ice, said Thomas. Why are you the way that you are? Asked present Mike. Okay, so what's the plan to deal with that attack? Asked Monkey from within Izuku's mind. Not sure yet, said Izuku, although he does seem fatigued. Maybe we can use that against him. Tetsu saw what happened to Kyoka and shivered with fear. He took several deep breaths at a time, but it wasn't helping. Tetsu, you doing all right, man? Asked Setsuna. Yeah, fine, said Tetsu. If you need to sit this one out, we can talk to Midnight for you, said Kendo. No way, objected Minoma. We need every victory we can get to show up Class 1A. Not at the expense of our fellow students' health and safety, said Kendo. If you want to take his place, by all means. It's all right, Kendo, said Tetsu. I can do this. I need to do this. You sure? Asked Reiko, a girl with her short, gray hair combed over one of her eyes. Positive, said Tetsu. At the same time, Momo stretched her arms in anticipation. While she had lost half of her team in the King of the Mountain exercise, she still had enough strength for the third round. Kirishima walked over and cracked his back. Good luck out there, Kirishima, said Momo. Thanks, Yamamo, said Kirishima. I can't wait to get out there and lay down some smack. You do that whatever it is, said Momo. She then noticed Tetsu down near the ring, looking nervously up at Kirishima. Momo simply gave the 1B student a polite nod and a smile. Midnight watched as Kirishima and Tetsu walked into the ring. Okay boys, she said, same rules as always. I want a nice clean fight. No funny business, got it? Why not? Yeah, sure, stuttered Tetsu. Is everything all right, Tetsu? Asked Midnight. Just a bit nervous, but I'll power through, said Tetsu. Had it not been for what you said 2 weeks ago, I'd say that's pretty manly, said Kirishima. Okay, on your marks, said Midnight. She then cracked her whip, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Begin. At once, Kirishima took on a hardened, rocky appearance, while Tetsu coated himself in steel. They immediately went at it, with Kirishima throwing punch after punch, while Tetsu blocked each attack. Tetsu was then able to knock Kirishima back with an uppercut. Kirishima knocked him back with a flying kick and tried punch again, only for Tetsu to duck and punch Kirishima in the stomach. Tetsu knocked Kirishima back with 2 more punches before the Rocky student kicked him in the stomach. Kirishima then roundhouse kicked Tetsu in his metal head. Tetsu then ducked under another punch and tackled Kirishima, who held his ground. As they grappled, Izuku made a stunning observation. You know, given how similar their quirks and fighting style are, I have a feeling we'll be here for a while. Nearly a half hour of fighting later, Tetsu and Kirishima were still going at it, albeit a little more sluggishly. My word, they're still going, said Present Mike. While most of the audience had gotten bored, Thomas was busy analyzing the fight below him. He saw how Tetsu was losing the motivation to fight as the battle dragged on, while at the same time marveling at the skill on display. If his friend, Yang, were here, he could see her offering internships on the spot. As it stood, Thomas knew when a fight was going to end. All right, presentation Michael, said Thomas. Here's a riddle for you to guess. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Tetsu let out a sigh after what had to be his 50th punch. This is going nowhere, he said. Kirishima, consider this my apology. You deserve to win more than I. I surrender. That is correct, said Thomas. Tetsu has surrendered, proclaimed Midnight. Kirishima advances to the next round. Tetsu bowed before walking back to his side of the stadium with Class 1B. Why did you do that? Asked Kirishima, confused. After the research I did for Midnight's detention, I saw some ugly stuff from heroes, explained Tetsu. I realized I didn't want to go that route. Maybe not the manliest I could have handled it, but what's done is done. Well, it seemed pretty manly to me, said Kirishima. Apology accepted. Elsewhere, Minoma was fuming. He just threw his chance away? He cried. Save it, Minoma, snapped Kendo. We'll have other chances. Don't forget, you threw your chance to show up Class 1 away when you tried to attack that Bakugo kid and lost your entire team's headbands. Minoma grumbled to himself as Setsuna practiced some kicks. You ready, Kendo? Asked Setsuna. Almost, said Kendo as she dropped the weight set. All right, let's go. Momo glared down at the ring as Setsuna's name was announced. Don't like the green lady I see, said Monkey as Izuku's face changed. That green lady is my cousin, Setsuna Tokige, explained Momo. We both got in via recommendation exams. Hey, Auntie, said Setsuna with a wave. Hey there, Dino gal, said Midnight. Keep it professional, you too, reminded Cementos. Monkey noticed Momo's grip around the guardrail tighten with rage and took a step back. Down in the arena, Kendo and Setsuna bowed before getting ready to fight. As soon as Midnight had cracked her whip, Kendo charged forwards with her enlarged fists, hoping to knock Setsuna out of the ring, only for Setsuna to split in half at the waist and evade the attack. You shouldn't move so fast, Kendo, said Setsuna. You'll fall to pieces. To emphasize, Setsuna detached her arms, using her flying fists like missiles to knock Kendo back. Kendo knocked the flying fists away, only to be met by Setsuna's left foot hitting her stomach. Bet you can't stomach this, said Setsuna as her pieces flew back onto her body, allowing her to deliver a roundhouse kick to Kendo's face. Now what's a pretty girl like you doing in a place down there? Asked Setsuna. Kendo blushed, only for Setsuna to kick her out of the ring. Setsuna Tokage advances to the next round, proclaimed Midnight. Momo looked down to see that she had snapped off part of the guardrail. Not a big fan of your cousin, I see, said Monkey. Momo stopped channeling One for All and sighed. Setsuna and Mom have always been close, said Momo. I's not enough for her to be gregarious and have friends. She just wants to show me up. Well, said Izuku as his face changed, I don't think she's all that great. Although, I can't help but wonder how her blood circulates when she detaches pieces of her body. Momo chuckled as Izuku mumbled up a storm about Setsuna's quirk. At the very least, she could use some of his speculation to her advantage in the upcoming fight. Fumikage waited in the shadows before his match with Momo was set to begin. So, Fumi, whilst I gather strength in the dark, how do you plan on beating Yamamo? Asked Dark Shadow. Don't give her the chance to create anything, said Fumikage. Once Yaoyorozu is out of the game, our revelry in the dark will truly begin. I like the sound of that, said Dark Shadow. And for our victory music? Oh, would you look at the time, said Fumikage. Let's go. In this corner, we have the Prince of Darkness, Fumikage Tokoyami, proclaimed Thomas. Fumicage's feathers bristled in the wind as he heard the crowd cheering. And in this corner, the Goddess of Creation, give it up for Momo Yaoyorozu, declared Present Mike. Momo gave a bow to the cheering crowds. No need to be formal, said Midnight, just act naturally. Okay, said Momo. As soon as Momo and Fumikage were ready, Midnight cracked her whip. Immediately, Dark Shadow surged at Momo, only for the girl to punch her away. Momo then made a shield that Dark Shadow bashed against. Momo held her ground as Dark Shadow continued to push her to the edge of the ring, only for Momo to duck to the side. Dark Shadow let out an inhuman roar as she punched Momo, knocking her closer to the edge. But then, Momo tossed out a flashbang, blinding Dark Shadow and Fumikage. Momo then charged at Fumikage, only for a blind and angry Dark Shadow to lunge at her, pummeling her into the ground. Then, Dark Shadow hoisted Momo above her head and tossed her out of the ring. Yaoyorozu is out of bounds, proclaimed Midnight. Fumikage advances to the next round. Shakily got up and dusted herself off. Better luck next time, Peaches, said Midnight. You did good. I guess, said Momo as she walked away. As Momo walked down the hall, she heard Monoma laughing loudly. Oh man, she heard him say, the one AVP was just all but out there. I bet she only got in by coasting by on her quirk. A loud thud then filled the air. What's wrong with you, Monoma? Yelled Kendo. Yeah, she got in on recommendation, said Setsuna. You know how hard it is to do that? No, but I know a bad hero when I see it, said Monoma. Momo decided to go somewhere else as she heard the rest of Class 1B rip into Monoma, though his words about her began to echo within her mind. Up next, it was Shiozaki and Mei's turn to fight. In this corner, we have the Vine Assassin of Class 1B, Ibara Shiozaki, declared Present Mike. Excuse me, snorted Shiozaki, offended. I'm no assassin. I'm simply trying to spread God's love. Which one? Asked Mei. The Christian one, said Shiozaki as she pinched the bridge of her nose. In that corner, we have the support class gremlin, Mei Hatsum, said Thomas, who then turned off his microphone and turned to Present Mike. Support class gremlin? Buddy, this is why you should let me write my own material. Mei gave Shiozaki an almost feral grin, making the Vine girl struggle not to shake in fear. Suddenly, feedback began playing over the speakers. Oh, that little gremlin, said Thomas in disbelief. She hacked us. Let me introduce the stunning support gear of Hatsum Industries, said Mei as she dodged Shiozaki's vines. I'm currently dodging attacks with the Hatsum Industries air balancer, said Mei. Watch what happens when I pull this cord. She pulled the cord on the jetpack, which released two poles on the sides. She flew down, knocking Shiozaki over. These stabilizing poles make great side weapons, right? Said May, not expecting an actual answer. Thomas noticed that his mic was still working and decided to have some fun. What about the boots? He asked loudly. These hover boots make running a breeze, said May as she landed. She dodged some more vines before performing a flying leap, knocking Shiozaki back. What about that gun strapped to your back? Asked Thomas. It's my patented Hatsum Industries net grappler, said May. Observe. She then fired several nets, tying some of the vines down. Shiozaki then used some more vines to grab the gun and slam it into the ground. My baby, cried May as she was grabbed by the foot. Shiozaki freed more of her vines, then slammed May onto the ground. You fool, she cried. My Hatsum Industries kinetic energy chainmail ought to straighten you out. She then sent the energy into her glove, and then used the jetpack to charge forward, punching Shiozaki out of the ring. May Hatsum advances to the next round, declared Midnight. Wait, what? Asked May. But I didn't. Hatsum, cried Thomas. That kinetic energy chainmail and gloves? I'll take your entire stock. Really? Asked May. Not only that, but I'll recommend Hatsum Industries to all my friends, said Thomas. All of them? Asked Present Mike as Thomas turned his mic off. My friend Ruby will love this kid, he said. Shiozaki had never felt so humiliated in her life. The support class gremlin truly lived up to her name. She sat down in the bleachers, brooding all the while. You doing all right, Shiozaki? Asked Juzo Hananuki, a tall kid with no lips and exposed teeth. Fine, said Shiozaki. You did the best you could, said Yui Kodai, a quiet girl with a bob of black hair, softly. At least you made it this far. True, said Shiozaki. Look at it this way, said Setsuna. You still have next year. Imagine how much better you'll be by then. The more Shiozaki thought about it, she couldn't help but chuckle a little at the idea. See? She can smile, laughed Setsuna. Shiozaki giggled some more as she watched Reiko and Pony's match, which Pony had won easily by using her flying horns to knock Reiko away from the ring. Ochako nervously paced back and forth before her match with Bakugo was set to begin. Ever since the battle trial, Ochako was well aware that Bakugo was, to put it simply, psychotic. There was no getting around that fact. Just then, Izuku walked in. Hey, Uraraka, he said as he set down some notes on the seat next to her. These might help you. Bakugo's quirk is the one I've studied the longest, so I came up with a plan to counter it. Thank you, but I won't be needing these, Izuku, said Ochako. No offense, but I need to take him out on my own. Besides, I just thought of a plan to deal with him. Okay, said Izuku. Just stay safe out there. I'll do my best, said Ochako as she walked out to the field. Begin, cried Midnight with the crack of her whip. Ochako touched the ground before dodging a charge from Bakugo. She then punched him back before putting her fingers together. Large portions of the ring floated into the air as Ochako was punched back by Bakugo. Let's see how Deku's plan works against this, he yelled as he used his explosions to knock Ochako back. But then, Ochako cancelled her quirk, creating a small meteor shower that smashed onto Bakugo. What a finish, cried Present Mike. Just then, a small rumbling was heard from the smoke and debris. Cue song, Leone Eyes by Jeff Williams. Bakugo flew out of the smoke and punched Ochako. Then he used his explosions to rocket back and elbow Ochako in the face, breaking her nose. Ochako then ducked under another elbow and punched Bakugo with an uppercut. Bakugo growled before kicking her in the ankle and punching her in her broken nose. He then swept out her legs and stomped down on Ochako's arm before punching her in the face repeatedly. This action drew large boos from the crowd. Why are you booing me? I'm winning, cried Bakugo. Boo Yusuke, yelled Thomas. Aizawa thought this was getting ridiculous and called in on the sports festival hotline. You're live, said Thomas. Shame on you and all of those others booing Bakugo, said Aizawa. He is respecting his opponent like a true hero. Right? Because a true hero beats down a target that's already been subdued, said Thomas. Come to think of it, causing excessive injury is something only a villain does. The way I see it, you can either get mad or get that kid therapy. Just my 2 cents. Thomas then hung up the phone. Any lies detected? He asked. None at all, smiled Present Mike. Meanwhile, Kurogiri saw everyone from the hot dog man to the announcer booing. Bakugo. I suppose he's our guy, said Lady Nagant. Yeah, said Kurogiri. How do you plan to convince him to join us? Asked Dr. Merlot. His case will need a personal touch, said Kurogiri. If what I saw is true, then my old friend, Aizawa, is still pulling for the strongest in his mind. The best way to convince him to join us will require that you stand back. He'll come on his own after I talk with him. Are you certain of that? Asked Lady Nagant. Look at his expression, said Kurogiri. As this exercise wears on, he'll soon grow more desperate for positive attention. Any positive attention? Don't worry, dear, said Recovery Girl. Uraraka is simply resting after I used my quirk. She'll need it, to be honest. Thanks for the update, Recovery Girl, said Izuku. Poor dear, said Recovery Girl. She had it the roughest of any of the people here. What Izuku and Recovery Girl didn't realize was that they were being watched. Looks like Midoriya is going to be here for a while, said one voice. Perfect, said another. Let's put our master plan to work. Momo was just forgetting all about Monoma's unkind words when Kaminari burst in. Guys, Aizawa-sensei just said the cheerleaders cancelled. What? Asked Mina. Yeah, said Kaminari. He told me to tell you all to get changed into the standard uniform. He handed Toru a picture to demonstrate before running off. I can make that, said Momo. What size is everyone? As soon as she had the information needed, Momo used her quirk to make copies of the cheerleader uniform. After changing, the girls ran out to the field, where they saw some cheerleaders in American uniforms. What? Asked Momo confused. They fell for it, said Mineta as he high-fived Kaminari. Looks like the ladies of 1A have gone full fan service, said Present Mike. Izuku walked out onto the field to witness the spectacle. Some of the audience began to laugh along with Mineta. All at once, everything came crashing down for Momo. The laughter, the prank, Monoma, Mineta, it was too much. Her lip trembled as she dropped her pom-poms and ran back into the hall, tears rolling down her cheeks as she fled in humiliation and pain.